Evening, everybody. So, this is going to have some rather bad real life consequences for me because it's obviously quite late. And one of the reasons why I had avoided doing the Ace Attorney trilogy on Monday was because I've got sort of a big thing going on at work, and that has some pretty hard start times. And that hasn't changed for tomorrow. um, but I do also recognize that, I mean, number one, it's a fun game and it's very enjoyable to play along. And then I guess the other thing that I have reflected on is that there's always going to be a reason not to do something. There's always going to be sort of a later start. There's always going to be an early morning. I may not feel 100% on the day. But I do actually happen to know that this is a game that some people actually really do enjoy seeing on the stream. And so I wanted to, where I can, I wanted to try and bring it on. And again, please don't, I sometimes get a little annoyed when there's this implication of like, I am doing you a favor. Oh, I don't know why that's on here. Um, I'm doing you some kind of favor by streaming this or whatever. I'm streaming this because I want to, and because I do try, even though I can't always get the right start time. I do want to get the sorry, where I can, I want to try and get the you keep as consistent as I can, basically in terms of the stream. And then of course it's just fun. So we will do some Ace Attorney. I suspect what's going to happen here is I will do part of the case and then we'll wind up doing it on Monday as well. But we'll worry about the details as they come up. And I mean, there isn't a rule saying that I have to do Cyberpunk on Fridays, but I'd like to kind of get through that if I can. All right, now I would have liked to have seen. There we go. And if you can give me a second here, I do just want to double check something on the stream setup. The tweet should already be out, but I'm a little concerned I may not have another thing that I need in place. So this won't be too long. If nothing else, you can enjoy the music. Okay, we're good. Sorry about that. I know extended silences aren't exactly the height of streaming, but let's keep going. Now, we're starting a new episode here, so Turnabout Goodbyes. I try as much as I can not to look up stuff in advance, so I don't know how many days are involved in this, but it does seem that the number of days has sort of grown over the course of the game. I guess it does say that the court case can only be 3 days, but I don't know what that would mean in terms of the investigations before the court case. So I'd maybe make a guess here that the longest would be 4, but it's a game. It's not it isn't constrained by normal times. It's been what, 15 years? About that, yes. 15 years is a long time to wait. I can't imagine how much I've suffered. You've suffered? Now, perfect opportunity has presented itself. At last, I shall have my revenge. What? Merry Christmas. December 25th, 10:08 a.m., Wright & Co. Law Offices. It was all a dream. Hey, Nick! Do you know if there are any good waterfalls around here? Waterfalls? Dare I ask why? Duh, Nick, isn't it obvious? I need a waterfall to stand under, preferably a freezing one. Oh, is that part of your spirit medium training? Of course, except I've been slacking off lately. I need to brave the elements and be forged anew under the rushing spring waters. Okay. I don't know about any falls per se, but Gourd Lake is pretty close. Oh, darn. Sorry, but them's the breaks. Couldn't you just take a cold shower or something? Good idea! So much for rushing spring waters. Next in the news, a large unidentified animal was sighted at Gourd Lake. The town is buzzing with excitement. Locals are calling it Gordy, in a tip of the hat to Nessie, the Loch Ness Monster. Though its namesake, Nessie, proved to be a hoax. Locals are confident that Gordy is the real deal. Boring. Can't they show real news for a change? Nick? Water pressure's kind of low in that shower. You want more pressure, huh? Why don't you go down to the fire department and have them spray you with the hose? Good idea, Nick! Apparently, faint blood is no aid in detecting sarcasm. We interrupt this program to bring you a special news bulletin. Strange occurrences continue at Gourd Lake, but this time, it's murder. Gourd Lake again? The body of a man was found in the lake early this morning. The suspect was apprehended. Sources inside the police department revealed that the suspect's name is Miles Edgeworth, age 24. Edgeworth was an up-and-coming prosecutor known for his skill and connections. He was guaranteed a long and rewarding career. Has he thrown it all away? Edgeworth? What's going on? Edgeworth would never do something like... Nick? Yipes! Maya? The fireman yelled at me when I called... We got bigger things to worry about than that. They arrested Edgeworth. What? You mean the prosecutor? Yeah, he's a suspect. In a murder. What? When? Where? Whom? Why? How? I don't know. Let's go find out, Nick. But first... Looks like it's cleaning day again at the hotel across the way. I hear they're planning a second branch outside the city. I can see the bellboy getting the angle of that screwdriver in the drawer just right. Mia's favorite plant. Its name is Charlie. Maya's gotten the knack of watering it lately. Charlie's been perking up these days. Maya brought in the poster of the Steel Samurai the other day. We had a big fight over whether to put it up or not. I know she's just waiting for a chance to sneak it up on the wall. Difficult-looking legal books stand in a formidable row. They mock me. I tried reading one and it made my head hurt. When I closed it, it slipped out of my hand, then my foot hurt too. Well, what should we do? What do you mean? Let's investigate. We should talk to Mr. Edgeworth and check out the crime scene. You're right. We need more information. Save aimlessness and confusion for later. Well, got any good ideas? Not really. I do my best thinking when I'm standing underneath a waterfall. December 25th, Detention Center, Visitor's Room. You know, Nick, we've all been in here one time or another, haven't we? Guess it comes with the territory. I'm not sure it's something we should mention to too many people. Ah! Hey, Edgeworth, come back! What are you doing here? Nick, I don't think he's in a very good mood. Well, he is in detention. Were you in a good mood when you were here? So you've come to laugh at the fallen attorney? Then laugh. Laugh! Well, why aren't you laughing? Nick, should we be laughing? Ah, it's a trick. Laugh and he'll get mad, or burst into tears. Edgeworth, we don't have so much free time we can spend it coming down here to laugh at you. Yes, you do. Actually, he's right. I hoped you wouldn't come. I didn't want you to see me. Not like this. I didn't want to see you like this either, believe me. Smile for the camera. This guard monitors the visitor's room. He hasn't moved an inch since I came in. A real pro. Or maybe he's just nervous with Edgeworth in the room. Edgeworth, tell me what happened. Why should I? What are you going to do about it? Duh! We're going to help you, that's what. Help me? You? Don't be ridiculous. Sorry? You're a novice. You'd only been in 3 trials. Hey! Sure you got lucky and won all 3, but your luck's bound to run out someday. You need real skill, right? Experience. Nick, he's insulting you! Nick? Why am I always the one who has to get angry? The murder took place at Gourd Lake, correct? Yes, late last night. The lake is a long way away from your offices and the courthouse. Why were you down there? I see no need to tell you. Mr. Edgeworth, you didn't really... Gordy. Huh? I went to see Gordy. Gordy? What's that? I'll tell you later. Why won't Edgeworth talk to us? December 25th, Gourd Lake Park entrance. Is this where it happened? Yep, Gourd Lake is in the middle of this park. I can see some police walking around in there. Questioning people, probably. Hey, isn't that Detective Gumshoe over there? Well, pal, there's enough of us here. Anyone found anything? Sorry, sir, nothing. Idiot! The trial's tomorrow. We need clues on the double. But, sir, there weren't any clues. That's why we arrested that attorney, Mr. Edgeworth. It's clear, sir. He's the one who... Shut up! Just you try saying that again. I'll make you sorry if you do. So just get out of my face, pal. Yes, sir. Detective Gumshoe's kind of scary today. Recruits. Hey, you're that hairy guy, Hairy Butts. Wright. Phoenix Wright. Will you ever learn my name? And just what are you doing here, pal? Investigating? Well, yes, I suppose. Well, I'm here to help. Ask me anything you want. Bring it! He seems different than usual. I wonder what's up. Mr. Edgeworth hasn't actually asked us to defend him yet. Huh? Oh, you don't say. The sign says Gourd Lake Nature Park. This place is full of families picnicking on the weekend. But no waterfall. Not many picnickers come here for spiritual training, Maya. I feel winter's chill from the bare leaf trees today. What is it about winter that turns people into poets? I don't know, but my toes are starting to feel numb. Yes, My poetry has that effect on some people. All right, well, we've got all the clues we need. Detective Gumshoe, do you know what happened here? Huh? You don't know, pal? No. Wow. Okay, Mr. Head in the fluffy pink cloud's lawyer. Head in the... Huh? Never mind, I'll tell you. It happened last night, about 15 minutes after midnight. There was a boat out on Gourd Lake. In that boat were two men. One of those men shot the other with a pistol. And the shooter was the shooter was Mr. Edgeworth? A cop who arrived on the scene arrested him. How did they get there so fast? Well, there was a witness. When the report came in, we raced to the lake. Witness? You don't think Mr. Edgeworth is a murderer, do you? Absolutely not. It's impossible. I don't care if there's a witness either. I don't believe a lick of it. Right. Who cares what the witness says? I care. You really believe in him, don't you, Detective? Of course I do. But the police are pretty sure he's the killer. Nobody's even really taken this investigation that seriously. Oh no. After all the help Mr. Edgeworth has been to us, hard to imagine that no one's standing up to take his side. Well, at least you are, Detective. At least you are. Do you know who will be Mr. Edgeworth's defense attorney in tomorrow's trial? He hasn't got one yet. What? The trial is tomorrow, isn't it? Well, I don't know the whole story. Apparently, no one he's been talking to will take his case. Why not? Mr. Edgeworth won't tell me. When you guys showed up, I figured he'd ask you to defend him. Unfortunately not. Well, pal, then you got a job to do. Help out Mr. Edgeworth. Prove that badge you wear isn't just some fancy piece of metal. Prove it to me, pal. Show me you're an attorney. Who is this witness? Sorry, pal. That's confidential. Anyway, the witness saw everything, apparently. I'm sure they'll turn up at the trial tomorrow. Is there only that one witness? Yep. It was pretty cold out in the lake last night. And it was Christmas Eve, after all. Still, we're being thorough. You never know when you're going to turn up another witness. That's why we're here today, checking things out. So far, we're coming up empty. Oh, it's Christmas today. I'd forgotten. What are you getting for me for Christmas, Nick? Talk to Santa. Alright, so I guess we're back to the detention center. Apparently not. Your attorney's badge. Edgeworth, let me defend you. Good one, Wright. But I'm not that hard up. Not yet. What do you mean by that? Me? Just a wet behind-the-ears lawyer with only 3 trials under his belt? Never. What? My case is near hopeless, right? Every defense attorney I've talked to has turned me down. What? Simply put, they were afraid they'd lose. It occurred to me that it might be my fault they lack confidence. After all, I did get every single one of their clients declared guilty. I don't believe it. Regardless, I don't want you involved in this. You, in particular, I cannot ask to do this. Edgeworth, this is really hard for me to ask. But you didn't do it, right? Right? Think what you will. I have only one request. Huh? Stay out of this case. Why? Nick is trying to help you. I know that. But I don't want your help, okay? Why not? Look, just go away and leave me alone. Nick, Mr. Edgeworth did it, didn't he? Maya, let's go investigate elsewhere. But Nick... really short on options. Is it true? No one will take Mr. Edgeworth's case? Yep. He is a bit of a celebrity. If you defended him and he lost, your reputation's sure to suffer. What's more, the case against him is, well, it's pretty solid. I suppose it would be if they have a witness. Hey, pal! Don't tell me you're gonna turn your back on him too! Remember the Steel Samurai case? Mr. Edgeworth helped you get your client declared innocent. I know. I went to Edgeworth. I tried. He really doesn't want us to represent him. Especially not us, he said. What? Well, that doesn't make any sense, pal. You shouldn't have heard. You should have heard him talking about you after that trial. He kept saying, "Right, right, right," over and over. Nick? I'm not sure that's a good sign. Neither am I. Why wouldn't he want your help? I don't get it. Detective Gumshoe, sir. What? Find something? No, sir. Not yet. But there was a call from the precinct. They want to hold an investigation briefing. A briefing? Right, I'm off. Oh. Sorry, pal. I guess you heard. I gotta go. And last thing you want to ask me about... Any last things you want to ask me about before I head back? Well, yes. Do you have any information on the victim? Sorry. They haven't worked up the autopsy report yet. I'm still waiting for it myself. Actually, say, if you get the time, drop by the precinct. We can talk more there, pal. You're not coming back, detective? Probably not, pal. So what should we do if we have something to talk to you about? Ah, right. Here, I'll show you how to get to the precinct. Come down and see me anytime. Directions to the police station received from Detective Gumshoe. Oh, hey, Detective Gumshoe. What? We'd like to take a look around in the park. Can we walk around? Yeah, no problem, pal. You got my permission. You know, Nick, I think there's something to be said for talking to people when they're busy. Yeah, they don't have the time to think about not giving you information. Right. Now let's get investigating. I mean, we kind of investigated already. Let's go to the public beach first. December 25th, Gourd Lake Public Beach. Wowzers! This is Gourd Lake? Yep. I'm not sure it warrants a wowzers, though. Probably not. But hey, look at that snack stand. Samurai dogs? I want a samurai dog, please. I bet they're great. With a name like Samurai Dog, how could they not be? They're a little behind the times, though. Kids are all into the pink princess now. I mean, like, you know. Nope. Wow, Gourd Lake is really big. Yeah. Say, Nick, why is it called Gourd Lake? Oh. Well, a long time ago, they used to grow gourds there, here. Whoa, no way! I was sure it was because the lake looked like a gourd when viewed from above. You know, like an hourglass shape. Well, it is shaped like a gourd, actually, but that's just coincidence. Oh, okay. I almost didn't see that signpost. Left boat docks, right exit. The trash can is empty. At least the place is well maintained. A lineup of plastic benches. I guess the idea is you buy a dog and eat it here. I doubt anyone would sit here and eat on a day like this. Except maybe Maya, if she had a samurai dog. Huh, someone left some poppers here. You know, you pull the string, and it goes pop. Yeah, I know the ones. You see them a lot around New Year's. Hey, Nick, they might be a clue. Let's take them. Come on, admit it. You just want to pop them, right? Was it that obvious? Poppers. Suppose it couldn't hurt? Oh, where'd they go? Into my pocket. Revive Snow, lovely to see you. Classic party noisemaker, pull the string, it goes bang. Not very clue-worthy. A hot dog stand. It's closed. The Christmas fringe looks a little half-baked. The banner reads, Samurai Dogs. Somebody needs to redecorate. I didn't realize at the time that I made the title that this was the Christmas special. All right, so I would normally have gone to the boat rental shop because this is actually one thing that's kind of... I don't know how much this is actually something that the game's trying for, but there's something kind of neat about showing the murder at the start. Because there's like you, the viewer, have more information than maybe your character does. And there's a few fun things that you can do with that. So there's a sort of standard mystery. In fact, we've read a couple of them on the stream where you have the detective, sometimes the master detective, and there is some kind of crime that's committed. And, hey, Joshy man. Thank you very much for the subscription, Joshy man. I didn't realize you were on a streak. But thank you very much for your continued support. And the words are very kind. Definitely, I make some mistakes in this game, so I don't feel like a great genius. Although, for some reason, I sort of sympathize with Edgeworth. But it's great to see you. Thank you very much for hanging out. And, of course, actually, thank you, all of you, for hanging out. I was obviously late in starting, and I wasn't even necessarily going to be doing Phoenix Wright, but I also sort of recognize that there's always going to be another excuse not to do a particular stream. And by the way, I will just mention that I'll try and do this a little bit later too, but I'll take a second here to shout out Revive Snow, who is a very nice broadcaster, very supportive. I know I said this before Revive Snow, but I'll maybe mention that Revive Snow is playing a game that fascinated me. It's called, I believe it's Trains and Islands. Let me just double check the name there. I will get back to this point I wanted to make about the way the stories are set up, but... Sorry, Islands and Trains. Do you like islands? Do you like trains? Have we got a game for you? The one where you turn me into a village, yes. I like Revive Snow's stream in general. For those of you that haven't seen Revive Snow, this is a broadcast that is actually it's both camless and voiceless. So Revive Snow has a VTuber avatar and text-to-speech. Wonderful broadcaster in their own right. In fact, I will say that I originally found the stream through Phantom Brigade, but of course I get to see all of these great games. And what's been nice too, Revive Snow has been encouraging me to do some Dare Drop, which it's funny, like once upon a time I used to kind of accept every key that I was given, and then there's too many now. It's wonderful that we have so many games, right? And it's great that there are these opportunities to broadcast stuff, but I'm definitely feeling a bit overwhelmed. But the thing is that it is helpful to me to get an idea in terms of things that people are interested in. And of course, the one thing that I've really liked, I don't always like trying to say positive things through negative observations, but sometimes there is a best way of making this point. I will note that my more common experience has been through broadcasters sort of closing the door than opening it, like Revive Snow has. So there was someone who I had, back when I was doing Paradox stuff, I'd gotten them in touch with Paradox. They started doing some of the streams. There were some other opportunities that I'd given them there. In fact, something along the lines of Cultist Simulator as well. And Paradox had sort of changed their requirements for broadcasting. So essentially, you had to have a certain number of concurrent viewers. So this effectively cut me out from the system. And for a little while, there were sort of exceptions, and then the whole thing fell apart. But one thing that had been a side effect of this was because this broadcaster didn't have, the limit. Like they were routinely below that limit back when it was sort of around the level that I could manage. This individual, basically the connection I got them in touch with put them on like a whitelist. But of course the people responsible change, world changes, so on and so forth. Hey DTG, good to see you. No worries, I'm sort of promoting Revived Snow in a really indirect way, but it's something I kind of want to. It's a story I want to tell just because it does sort of speak to character. So the end of that story, unfortunately, was I had mentioned to this broadcaster, not necessarily expecting anything, but just saying what the situation was. I said, hey, I actually don't have anybody I can contact at Paradox about this anymore. Would you mind even just getting me in touch? You don't need to advocate for me, anything like that. I'm just looking to find someone to communicate the fact that, this would be I think at the time it was the first expansion that I would not have played for Stellaris, which was one that I had done since before the game was released. And like for them, it was just sort of like, yeah, I got a good thing going. I don't want, can't put the unwashed masses. Like it was very, very clearly, it's like if you were bigger, I would do this. But what the thing that drove me nuts on that was when there was a big cultist simulator thing that happened. Or no, sorry, it wasn't cultist simulator. It was, I think it was a Phantom Brigade thing. Anyways, it was this nice opportunity. Large number of people came in, and all of a sudden, despite the fact they never visited my channel, all of a sudden they start showing up and happening to mention how much they like broadcasting games like this and so on and so forth. So yeah, I mean, obviously over time, my view of Twitch streamers and some of the connections that you make has been dimmed. I definitely prefer the people that I talk to here in terms of the chat, but it is one of these things where, as much as you don't necessarily want something like that to affect you, it is just a certain point where I've been to enough Twitch meetups to sort of know that it's kind of like playing a really crummy game where everybody's got business cards and like you win if you give away all your business cards, but like don't take anyone's. And that's just no way to build a community, right? So what's nice is when you encounter other people who, without any necessary, not necessarily for any benefit to them, just because they're nice to hang around with, or they're, somebody who, in this case, Revived Snow is a fellow Canadian and happens to, like games that I seem to like. I'll actually also mention Revived Snow plays Apex Legends, which I'm not brave enough to do on stream. But it's one of these things where I've learned to value very highly the type of person who will just do a nice thing or encourage someone or give someone an opportunity without necessarily any direct benefit. And it's it's a small thing, but it's one of those things where it's someone who I really do want to try and promote and talk up, because in addition to just being pleasant inside of chat, it's nice to be able to speak to some of these personal qualities that are ones that I've certainly observed and benefited from. And I think it's just because you can't necessarily rely on that on this platform. And it's why, even though I do feel a certain reluctance in terms of making sort of a positive case through a negative one, it is one that I think is worth. In this case, I felt it's sort of worth communicating, just because I don't think. I mean, drama is drama, and it's to a certain extent it sells. But on the other hand, I don't like being all that gossipy about other streamers. It's this one that I usually just kind of keep quiet on. But I'll say names when they're good things, and not say names when they're less good things. But those are a few reasons why I wanted to take the time and talk up Revive Snow. Both because they're a nice broadcaster and I like having them hang out inside the channel, but it's actually the first time in quite some time that I've had someone sort of actively sort of promote or recommend or talk about opportunities. And it's normally something that for a long time I've just done on my own. So it's a nice contrast. Anyway, so I'm happy to say also a few of you have come by while I'm busy chatting. So the one thing I did want to say about the way that the game is set up, and I think there's a couple of neat ways that you can do some differences in terms of storytelling, would be if you think about the Agatha Christie stories that we read back in Christmas, there's sort of this format where you have a detective, sometimes a master detective, sometimes just a good old-fashioned ordinary detective. But the part of the mystery, and this will be true for television, this will be true for short stories, novels, you find out the solution at the end. That's the big reveal to you, the reader. And I don't know if this is an actual convention, but it almost feels in some cases the difference between sort of a detective and a master detective is that the detective, the reader finds out at the time the detective does, and sort of the master detective is the one who has figured it all out, maybe from the very start, and that the big reveal is the master detective sort of revealing the big thing. I don't know if that, like, I definitely do not read enough mysteries to know if that's how that works, but it sort of feels that way, right? There are some where you sort of feel to be a little bit closer to the investigator, and then there are some where, you know, in the case of Holmes and Watson is observing Holmes. You don't get the first person of Sherlock Holmes. And that, by the way, is a wonderful technique, right? There's a book series I really like called The Baroque Cycle by Neil Stevenson. Two of the major characters in it are Isaac Newton and Gottfried Leibniz. So the calculus dispute is actually a plot point inside of it. And Neil Stevenson's pretty direct. Like, there's no way he is even remotely as intelligent as half of one of those participants. And so one of the characters that he writes in is Isaac Newton's roommate, who is probably around Stevenson's intelligence. So, you know, a pretty sharp guy, but, you know, someone who observes this true genius as opposed to trying to portray that way of thinking. So, and again, Baroque Cycle is much newer than the Sherlock Holmes stories, but I think it's a decent example about how that trick can sort of work even today. Although Baroque Cycle is kind of old now. So I think the series that's probably most associated with this other form or this difference in terms of style, right? So you've got a natural... Oh! Thank you very much for gifting that sub to Revive Snow, Joshy Man. I really appreciate that. So the one that I always think of, or at least seems to come up when people discuss these things, is Columbo. So Columbo, it's unique in a few different ways. So for those of you that are not familiar with it, the grandpa in The Princess Bride, Peter Falk, played Columbo. But the idea behind Columbo, and I don't know if it was the one that pioneered this or if it's just the one that's best known for it, is that it shows you at the start of the show the murder being committed. So you, as the viewer, yep, he was Columbo. I'm like 99% sure, at least. But interesting. I still think Princess Bride's great. It's been a while since I've seen it, but it's solid. I think it's a charming, definitely a charming movie. So, in the case of Columbo, it's you'll see the murder being committed, and then the whole show is about seeing. Oh, interesting. Okay, now I'm gonna look this up just to confirm, but I'm like 99% sure. Where's Princess Bride? Yep. 1987, The Princess Bride, grandfather, narrator. I also really like that Revive Snow uses the frog emote a lot. I feel like that's an emote I should get, the frog emote. By the way, I do apologize. I know some of you are here for Phoenix Wright, so we will get back to it, but I did want to. So the thing is, I do actually want to make this point because I think there's some interesting things that we can do to watch and sort of appreciate the game with. So in the case of Columbo, right, there's the innovation in the sense that you know who did the murder, and so where the story becomes interesting is Columbo being able to solve the case. How is he going to solve the case when, and of course the really interesting one of that is when it looks like it's the perfect murder. And I think one of the things that's kind of interesting about Columbo specifically is that he's kind of this like schlubby detective. He's definitely, people will tend to look down on him, and he definitely does not have a problem with people thinking he's a bit of a clown. But he always just happens to get lucky, or he always just winds up asking that question that shows he's a little bit closer or maybe a little bit more clever than the people appreciated. And then they start getting really worried, and the series will go on, or the episode will go on, and then there's usually kind of a big reveal at the end where sort of Columbo will say what the actual the big tip-off was. So I think that's a really fun way of handling it, because in that case it's a slightly different. It's a different spin on sort of the Master Detective style, or at least what I've called the Master Detective style, where there's still the enjoyment of the payoff, but it's more about appreciating the skill of the detective, whereas you have more information than both the detective at the time. If anything, you have the knowledge on the murderer's part. But yeah, it's a neat way of doing that with, again, not having to somehow imbue the viewer with the kind of intelligence of the detective, or the terrible option on this, which would be to have some sort of like voiceover from the main character talking about how they're reasoning through the case. I can't imagine that would pay off very well. So certainly on the spectrum of some of the styles that we've been talking about, Phoenix Wright starts off by showing you the murder, and it starts off showing you information that you wouldn't necessarily have as Phoenix Wright. So in the case of the murder of Mia, right, we got to see who was responsible, and then it was more about being able to establish that guilt. In the case of the Steel Samurai, though, we didn't necessarily know who the murderer was. And, in the case of this one, it's obviously starting to play up. I actually kind of like the way that they've leaned into us getting to know some of these characters better. So clearly there's more of a relationship between Phoenix Wright and Edgeworth that's developed over these 3 episodes. Seeing Edgeworth with a gun in his hand is a surprising one. The significance of revealing who that is a fairly substantial moment. But it's also kind of, I guess to a certain extent, we don't have that perfect knowledge that you might associate with what I described in terms of Columbo. Like, we have seen Edgeworth with a gun. We've seen some somewhat incriminating text. And we know that there were two people in a boat. But we don't actually know all of these circumstances. We don't even necessarily know if Edgeworth is the killer. Although the thing about these is that you tend to, at least for me as a viewer or as a reader, I do tend to be a bit annoyed if they pull the rug out from under me. You know, if it was like, wait, you know, that close up from the gun to the face, that actually was Edgeworth finding the murder weapon. Ha ha. That's kind of a lame way of getting out of that. But one of the reasons why I took the time to talk about this now is that this is a way that you can actually imbue the character that's being played with a little bit like how Columbo gives you more information than you would normally have as a viewer for a mystery story. This is a way of getting you sort of to that halfway point. Phoenix Wright is not necessarily someone who is exceptionally gifted in terms of investigative ability. They've got a good track record, but it is also true within this game that he gets literally supernatural help, right? His boss will come in spirit form to help him out if he gets in trouble. I mean, you could also just say it's like, actually, it's him sort of remembering the lessons from before. But this is not a game that really wants to be taken seriously, I don't think. So we'll just say, yeah, this is a world in which spirits, take possession of their sisters. So as a result, this is why, and I'll go to both, but this is kind of an example where I would be more inclined to go to the boat rental shop because I think that's most directly related to the things that I saw at the start of the episode. I think it's the one that's most related to the murder. But because I know I'm going to visit all of these things anyway, I might as well just go to the Gourd Lake Woods. But it was just that moment where I sort of reflected on how they presented the information at the start and how I would normally go through it. So maybe as an example, if there was some sort of time mechanic, right, that you had to accumulate enough evidence, but every time you took an action, that would take time away. I would have started with the boat rental shop first, and that is that's an example of me as a player using knowledge that wouldn't necessarily be in Phoenix's possession, but would probably be an indicator of sort of the master detective thing, right? Because I'm sure some of you have had like a coworker who's like this too, that they're just someone who seems to be maybe it's not a coworker thing, but for me it's often coworkers. You know, people who are extremely good at what they do, and they just seem to. You can really only detect this when you know how to do this yourself, but for whatever reason, they seem to miss problems that sometimes bog down your own work, or, you know, when there are 3 or 4 different options in front of them, they pick the right one, and it always consistently seems to be the one that produces like fruitful insight as opposed to the blind alleys. And it's not to suggest that these are people who never go down blind alleys or something like that, but it just happens to be that there is some kind of intuition or understanding of the problem in such a way that they always seem to make the right choice. And that's maybe another way that sort of I'll call it the half Columbo, right? That you're given a glimpse at the opening, you're given a glimpse at the crime scene. But for whatever it is, it is, I've always kind of rationalized that in my head as the fact that sometimes there are people who are just naturally talented or naturally gifted at something, and it doesn't eliminate hard work, and it doesn't eliminate training, but it definitely does help the overall efficiency in terms of what they do. So anyways, after all of that, I'm still going to Gourd Lake Woods. December 25th, Gourd Lake Woods. I like it here, Nick. I love that sign in the background. Look, someone's camping. They've got guts camping at the scene of a murder. Hey, Nick. If they were camping here last night, they might know something about the murder. That's true. Good call, Maya. Let's go talk to them. The sign says no camping. Funny place to pick a place to pick to pitch your tent. Wait, what if the sign said no setting tents on fire? I don't think they have signs like that. Oh. There's food and some magazines on the sheet. It takes a pretty tough skin to camp in this cold. Hey, Nick. What? Don't tell me you're hungry again. No. I was just wondering, why are camping pots and pans made of aluminum? They didn't talk about that in any of the law books. So there's no law saying they have to be made out of aluminum then. I'm not having this conversation. This SUV has seen better days. It's dented all over. I can't believe anyone would drive their car down here. The trees grow quite thick here. Further back, the trees fade into the shadow where the sunlight can't reach them. This camera has a mic and some sort of attachment. It must take pictures when triggered by a noise. Wow, cool. Let's try it out. Hi, I'm Nick. Maybe I'm not saying it loud enough. Hey! I'm Nick! Huh. Nick! Will you stop that? Maybe it's broken? Don't kick it. Maybe it isn't set to respond to voices. Well, what then? These things? Party poppers? Well, it responded. Oh! Hey, you! Get your hands off of that! Eek! What in the Sam Hill? Look what you done now. There goes a whole roll of film. What? Huh? Sorry is nice, but it don't pay my bills. You know how much a roll of that film costs? Not that much? Also, I keep forgetting the age of this game because it's been... I know what a roll of film costs. Do you, chat? I'll pay back. What are y'all thinking setting off a party popper in a place like this? Well? What? Don't try to play stupid with me because you think I'm some country bumpkin. Yeah, I know how y'all Yanks think. I say, those southern folks talk with that exaggerated drawl. Why, they must be dumb. I don't know if I want to try and do a drawl for this. Let me just tell you, just because I might be dumb, don't... Sorry. Well, let me tell you, just because I might be dumb, don't mean we all are. Nick, help. And who are you now? Her chaperone? Yeah. No. Rather, we're sort of friends? Just figure out what you're all gonna say and say it for bejesus's sake. God, I'd rather sit through one of Papa's drawls than listen to you stutter all day. Oh boy. I guess we should pay her for the film. Watch it. Yes, ma'am. 45 Are you serious? Hang on. Wow. So, I mean, I just took a look. This is admittedly just a quick Google search, but it says here that, like, Yeah, so I mean, so it's really about the film. Like, so a roll should work with any camera of that format. So, like, I have a 35mm. Actually, I have more than one, but like my main 35mm camera, which I admittedly have not used in a long time, that's like an old Canon, but that can take any roll of 35mm film, and that could go into any Nikon or any old camera. Now I have a medium format camera, and that has a special kind of film which presumably would cost something different. Then there's large format as well. So if it's a different kind of film format, but I mean that doesn't really look like that. That looks like a pretty standard 35mm film. Only two. I have medium format, which I really like. I actually got that quite inexpensively too. And then I do have. I don't think I've ever heard of Magic Cubes, Lord Gloom. Also, welcome. Good to see you. For those of you who don't know, actually, Lord Gloom is also a broadcaster. I saw you playing some Magic most recently. I don't know if that's your most recent, but it's definitely one that I saw. Oh, interesting. So I actually just see there's a few YouTube videos on here that are actually talking about film prices going up. So yeah, $45. Wow. That is actually something where I would start to debate about. Like I have a digital camera, and I'd probably switch. That would be the point where I start thinking about switching to it. But yeah, so I would do as black and white because I had the developing. I was able to sort of develop black and white film. I wasn't able to print them though. That would be something I'd go take to a shop. But the other one that I kind of liked was color reversal film, also known as slide film. So it's not necessarily the idea that, I'm not going to do some sort of Mad Men moment where I'm talking about, nostalgia while going through a slideshow. But there's something about the color qualities of it that makes for it. I actually liked one called Astia. So one of the reasons why I've got the camera that I do is it does a decent approximation of the Fuji Astia style. It was also the first slide film that I had that went they just took it out of print. So they'll do one called Velvia, which it doesn't really do natural reproduction of colors. It's a very vibrant one. Like the Velvia 50 in particular actually just has this very distinct characteristic. I think probably Ektachrome was the one that everybody talked about being the really special film. But yeah, I mean, clearly I'm talking about 2025 film prices, which do actually seem to be really high. So I'm glad that at least one of you has looked at film costs. But yeah, I'm not so sure. When did this game come out again? Huh, 2001. Lol, this game is for old people. Yeah, I don't know. The roll of film's gonna cost you like what, $10? Hey, Takuri, how you doing? On second thought, I'll pay later. I'm really sorry. What? Can't you see I'm changing the film in my camera here? Someone, I'm not naming any names, but someone used up a whole roll. Sorry. That didn't work. I wonder if I have anything to show her that would get her attention. What? Can't you see I'm changing the film in my camera here? Someone, I'm not naming any names, but someone used up a whole roll. Oh, the camera is 45. Okay, cool. Okay, so I don't think I have anything yet to... Well, I mean, I can give it a try. This is my badge. Huh? Aren't badges supposed to be all shiny and impressive? You a cop or something? I'm a lawyer. What? You ain't gonna try and pull one of them lawsuits on me over that film now. So I'll have you all know I'm a fighter, and I wrestled meaner looking things than you. No, that's not it at all. We're here investigating a murder that took place here on the lake. Oh, I'm sorry, Cree. Is it like ongoing right now, or are you enjoying a break from it? A murder? Sounds cool. Why didn't y'all say that in the first place? Go ahead, ask me anything you like. All right. Good luck, Cree. If you need to, I was gonna say, I think you probably had to deal with more venting from me than anything else. But if you need to vent, you know my DM, and I won't read them right away, but I'll definitely respond. Sorry though. Hopefully hearing some Ace Attorney will soothe the nerves. Finally, some cooperation. Yeah, DTG, I definitely not. I don't think you. I will not hold you for skimming on prices. If nothing else, it does actually see that film prices have genuinely risen. So the accident actually taught me something. You too. Y'all can come out of hiding now. I won't bite hard. Come to think of it, where did Maya get to? Sorry. I was feeling a little overwhelmed. The culture gap and all. Never you mind, honey. I can talk yank for y'all if it pleases you. Thanks. I think I'll be okay. Great then. I'm Lotta. Lotta Hart, but you can call me Lotta. I'm here photographing meteor showers for a research project. Mighty pleased to meet you. Oh yeah, when was that murder anyway? I ain't seen much television lately. Happened late in the night on Christmas Eve. That's so, Christmas Eve. A man on a boat was shot. Did you see anything? Well, let me see. A boat, you say? I reckon I might have seen one. Not sure, though. Y'all gotta remember, I've been watching this here lake for a good 3 days now. I seen enough boats to choke a mule. Kinda hard to remember which I seen when. So, what is it you do, Lotta? Huh? Me? You don't really want to know that, do you? Actually, I'm a research student at Country U, right in the heart of the Heartland. Wow, me? Nick, she's a research student at a university. Country U. So I hear. So when did you come up here? Let me see. I guess I was about 3 days ago. What are you photographing? Didn't I tell you all that already? Meteors. Yep, meteor showers. Falling stars. It's quite a camera you have there. Y'all better know it. It's German-made. A genuine Soligen. Solingen? Isn't that where they make knives? So what's that device you have stuck to the camera? Huh? Device? Your camera went off all by itself when I fired my party popper. Now that, the mic triggers the shutter whenever it detects certain sounds. It's programmed to pick up loud noises right now. A programmable camera? Neat! Lotta's camera added to the court record, set to automatically take a picture when a loud noise is detected, faces the lake. I don't think we have anything else to do. Obviously, at some point we're going to want to see whether or not it captured the murder, but I don't know how we get there from here. she was giving us the third degree about the film, but the camera's just like, yeah, have it. December 25th, boat rental shop. Nick, what is this place? A boat rental shop. Closed for Christmas, it seems. I guess a murder taking place on one of the boats wouldn't be good for business either. Boats. I've never ridden on a boat. Really? Well, how about we go out on one when the trial's finished? Hey, good idea. You bet. Also, the fallen star idea. Like, so this is the thing actually, speaking of Columbo, like one of the things I like is this is obviously a clever game with some fun writing inside of it. And I didn't completely register like how it would lean into some of the absurdity. Like I don't think there wasn't a moment where I was sort of thinking during some of the weird trial stuff where it's like, that's not how courts really work. This is ridiculous. But like I just sort of figured it was like, okay, they want to get on with the fun bits of this. Like we'll just accept it, as opposed to it just fully embracing how ridiculous some of it, like some of the ideas in it are. And like obviously you have these outrageous names at the start, but like it's really clear how intentional some of this stuff is. Why the hell did I start talking about this? It was related to the camera. Anyway. But yeah, so one of the things that can sometimes be a little bit of a challenge on it is that it's fun to embrace the crazy, and it's definitely fun to like enjoy. Oh yeah, sorry, now I remember. But yeah, so the funny thing about it is that like every once in a while, even though it does seem to be quite silly at points, there'll be just these nice little moments where it's talking about, making a reference to a fallen star, and clearly that's talking about Edgeworth. And they always kind of catch me by surprise just because of how delightfully silly the game gets, that you don't sometimes expect it to sort of turn around and throw, like it definitely uses double entendre, but not, it tends to do so more so in a slapstick way. So when it makes these other sort of more subtle references, it's, it still sort of catches me off guard a little bit. I like it though. Like there's a side of me that kind of wants, either through the, I guess they call it ROM hacking, that or the existing tools or something like that. There's a side of me that would kind of like to see what it would be like to write a Phoenix Wright mystery. Anyways, hey, good idea. You bet. A small boat rental shop. It doesn't look like anyone is around. They're probably closed because it's Christmas. There are some boats floating at the dock. Was one of these boats used in the murder? I wonder? Nick? Huh? I changed my mind. I don't really want to go for a boat ride. There's more forest off that way. I doubt I'd find any helpful clues in there. Interesting. So it doesn't seem to have... There's, like, clearly you don't put something like this in the game if you don't intend people to go to it. But I think what we'll do is we'll head back to Edgeworth and show him the camera. Oh, or the Criminal Affairs Department. But yeah, let's see what the camera does. Right. He's not talking to us. December 25th, Police Department, Criminal Affairs. Looks like Detective Gumshoe isn't here. Something wrong, miss? Turning yourself in? Okay, what did you do? Shoplifting? Larceny? Public indecency? No! None of those things! We're looking for Detective Gumshoe. Is he around? Gumshoe? Oh yeah, he's in a meeting right now. I don't think he'll be out anytime soon. Okay, we'll come back. You do that. Deluded, how you doing today? Speaking of streamers that I'm quite fond of, Deluded Daybreak has been killing it on Rift of the Necrodancer lately. I've been watching more than chatting, and I do apologize. Deluded Daybreak gives me these very nice shout-outs, but the one thing that I feel a little self-conscious about is there are some times where I will come in and I know I gotta have to run off in a little bit, and I feel bad hearing so many nice things and then be like, okay, I got my shout-out, see ya. So, but please don't let that be an excuse to not hang out in Deluded stream. But I will say, Deluded Daybreak, in addition, so actually Deluded was someone who really encouraged me to keep going with Phoenix Wright. But on top of that, one thing I definitely enjoy about the stream is there's quite a bit of variety. So I originally, Deluded originally found me through playing the Rift of the Necrodancer demo. But hanging out allowed me to watch some Morrowind, some Oblivion. I don't think I've seen I think you did a little bit of the remaster, if I recall. Sorry, it's all blurring together now. But yeah, so Deluded, I do actually get to enjoy a lot of the just the variety of games that are on display. I mentioned Rift of the Necrodancer just because it is one of those games that is definitely played at a high skill level. And I will actually also say I've really appreciated how Deluded shared some graduation stories inside of the Discord. I know I'm not very good at sort of provoking chat in my own Discord, but it is one of those things that I really appreciate when other people do that. Because it's, I'm sure maybe one day I'll find a better way of kind of getting all of that stuff worked out. But it is nice that people are using that, for me to kind of keep reminding me that, yes, this is something I want to put a bit of effort into. But it does make it a little bit easier when people are initiating conversation with each other, just so that I don't necessarily feel it's on me to sort of try and start a conversation each time. Part of that is also if we're in, like, not a meeting at work, but there's a gathering of the team. There's something that's caused the team to be together, and sort of there's a forced interaction. I have found that sometimes one of the things I can do is try and get the ball rolling on a topic. So I think because I tend to do that a lot in another circumstance, it's made me a little less inclined to do that in my own, like, my outside of work time. So it's another thing that won't necessarily affect your ability to watch the Deluded Daybreak stream, but it is something that I've actually really appreciated. And obviously Deluded is not the only one who's done that. So. Yeah, DTG, and it's one of these things where it's like I don't feel bad saying hi, or I don't feel bad like lurking in a stream or something like that. I do sometimes get a little like, there are sometimes people who will come in and it's been a few months and the only thing that ever happens is someone just announcing that they're that they're lurking or whatever. And it's like, it's fine. Like, I don't mind that they're doing that. And certainly people can lurk without announcing themselves. That's fine too. A concurrent view is a concurrent view. But there's a certain point where it's like, is this just trying to, like, why is the presence being advertised so persistently when they don't want to interact? Like, it's fine, but you don't get there's no attendance, there's no prize. So I sometimes wonder what motivates that sometimes. Not like, and again, I don't want to make it like, if you happen to be someone who does that, I don't think there's anybody who does that in here, because it's something I usually observe in other channels anyway. But it does sort of make me wonder, is there like some sort of stolen valor going on here or something like that? So because I'm a little conscious of that, and it's especially some of you I know I don't get a chance to see as often. So like Night 97 is actually a perfect example of this. Wonderful broadcaster, raids me far more than I raid them. And yet, like, so that would be a case where I'll check out their stuff, but I'd feel a little bad saying sort of hi lurking, and then not say anything. So yeah, it's just one of those ones where, because I know, I get such nice words, I never want to sort of seem like I'm just kind of coming in for the shout out and then scampering off. Of course, I have actually participated in Deluded's chat and certainly enjoy doing so. So I don't feel super guilty either. But I don't know, just one of those things. I like to be polite. So, all right. Oh, and go straight home and stay out of trouble. No more shoplifting. You got that? Do I look like a criminal or something? This must be the chief of the detectives here. He's glued to his computer screen. What? Cord Lake? Gordy sighted? I don't believe it. Shouldn't you be reading something more important? Hey, is that a police department's mascot? That's the Blue Badger. It was my idea. I made it. It's my mascot. Yeah, see, this is it. Like, just in case. But yeah, sorry. So I'll just clarify a couple things here too. So yeah, Deluded. I'm delighted. By the way, sorry. I saw your earlier message saying that you got the silliest conversation. Now you have a bunch of words in a jar sitting at your desk. Feel free to share the words if you are so inclined. Yeah. So just so I can be clear on this, I like lurkers. I like, I think people who sit down and hang out and enjoy the broadcast are great, and I would never want to discourage someone from that. The thing that I always just found really interesting was there was a shift a couple times. This is more so in channels that I modded, where there were people who I could remember, they were so frequent, I could remember specifically their name just through the fact that they would always announce that they arrived, and they'd never say anything else. And I sort of, I just kind of wondered, is this because they want the broadcaster to know that they're watching? Is this because, I never quite understood that. It was like, are they angling for... I think what it came down to for that individual was, it was because at some point I realized that they were a broadcaster, and that was when I was noticing it. So I was like, are they angling for a shout out here? Do they chat until they, they get the word or whatever? So it was just one that I could never get a read on. But yeah, if I gave the impression that I don't, I expect people to chat, that is not at all what I'm saying. I really, really appreciate it when anybody watches, particularly when I'm babbling on like this. But I do feel a little self-conscious just because of the way that I wound up reacting to that one guy in that other channel. I wanted to... fair enough, Kree. But yeah, anyways, sorry. Just for what it's worth, I hope nobody feels like they need to... Basically, the thing is, I don't think anybody needs to communicate if they don't want to. Which is why I've always sort of found the single... It's a little bit like announcing that you're going, stopping watching a stream if you're mad at the stream. It's it's not an airport, right? You don't need to announce departures. If somebody's in the chat being really active and they say, hey, I gotta go, that completely makes sense that you'd announce that, because, you don't want somebody to ask you a question and then not be there. But yeah, I don't know. This has fortunately given me a minute to this has given me another chance to bring up the mascot. For those of you that didn't see it previously, I'm just taking something off of Reddit here, but Amicus, the Canadian Supreme Court mascot. Prove to you that your shoes are alive and have a vendetta against you for washing them. I do at some point want to do more Canadian court trivia and details. Yeah, that sort of stuff makes sense to me. Again, I feel a little self-conscious about this. Just again, it's one of these ones where I don't want people to feel like they. I mean, if there was supposed to be a rule, then I'd like write down the rule, and then the self-evident stuff should be self-evident. Yeah, the emphasis on that story that I told is largely more. It's largely more about the regularity of it, right? So it would be. Actually, you know what? I think what it probably triggered with me. I'm just kind of reflecting on it now. I guess it's because to me it felt a little bit like the equivalent of the real life phenomena of like when you like that friend you always hear, we should hang out every single time, you know. There's never a conversation. There's never an actual interaction. It's just, we should hang out, and you know you are never going to see them again. And it's like, if you were to have regular interactions with this individual in which the only time that they said that was we should hang out, that's why it would seem a little strange. That's probably where I'm going with that. But I don't know, though. It's like the other thing, too. And actually, yeah, when you talk about view poachers, I think the big thing for me is just I'm actually pretty relaxed about that, too. So I know there's a tendency on Twitch for people to try and treat it like they're the only stream live. And, like, that's silly, right? The whole idea... I know there was a while where it felt like you were not allowed to acknowledge the existence of any other broadcaster on the platform. And I've definitely had people who come in and announce that they stream a game that I'm doing. And I think it's a little tacky, right? But I also don't flip out about it immediately. Because usually, like, I think of my own reaction in that case, right? Where I'm like, okay, well, this person's, you know, walking into a place, you know, announcing that they have a broadcast. You know, like, yeah, at that point, you might as well just kind of come in and be like, hey, what are you watching this? You know, what are you, you know, what are you watching this jackass for? Like, let's just come watch my stuff, right? You know, it can be in certain circumstances. I think everybody kind of gets the vibe, right? Like in certain circumstances, it's maybe a little tacky, but it's not super bad. But I think some of you will maybe remember that guy from Uplink, right? Where, you know, he wants to give me a tip. And I'm like, no, I'd like to do it. Yeah, so if actually this might be illustrative. So this guy first announced that he was broadcasting the game, and, you know, explained his setup, and more or less implying that his was better or whatever. But that's fine. And it's like, you know, do you want a tip? Nope, I'd like to play the game on my own. And it's like, it's a quality of life tip. Didn't even reply to that. It's like, I've been clear, want to do it on my own. Here we go. In fact, the one thing that would have been helpful and was not mentioned was the fact that if you exit out to the main menu, you get the options to change the resolution to 1080. But, you know, God forbid that the people who want to tell you how to play a game tell you something is actually useful. So after all of that, then it, like, I did. And so the quality of life tip, I was kind of thinking that this is what it was going to be, but it was the idea that you can take more than one job. Of course, the consequence for doing that is that some jobs can actually be rendered impossible by other hackers, which is one of the reasons I don't do that. But I wasn't 100% sure if that was an actual mechanic in the game or if I just didn't understand the mission that I was on. So when I did finally get more than one mission, you know, immediately this guy is like, that was a tip I was going to tell you. And, like, that is the point where I have to be a little mean, and I'm like, well, thank God you were here to let everyone know you thought of it first, right? And, of course, inevitably they're going to, you know, announce that they're leaving. I was sure to remind them they would not be missed. But, you know, it's just, it's dumb, it's silly. But it's, that's the sort of stuff which, to me, like, I kind of find that is sort of self-evident. That's, like, if someone's really going to go and follow off of someone's conduct like that, they can go ahead and do so, right? Like, they'll probably be happier in a broadcast like that than me. But the part where it does become a bit annoying is that when it's like, okay, you know, sure, you've mentioned that you stream this game, fair enough, you want to get your followers. But once it suddenly becomes like a series of like, oh, here, I'm also going to make sure that I demonstrate that I actually know this game better, and you should definitely follow me for that, or whatever motivates them to do something along those lines. That's where it just kind of becomes a bit of a drag to hang out in chat. Now, obviously, that's different from like lurking or something like that. Lurking is wonderful. I actually think lurking should be encouraged, if nothing else, because concurrent views are concurrent views. And I would certainly prefer that to somebody coming in and, you know, trying to, you know, using it as like a marketing vector or whatever. Especially too, because I feel like I've been, I feel like I'm not exactly tight-fisted when it comes to the shoutouts and stuff. Yeah, go nuts, Diluted Daybreak. You definitely don't need to ask permission for that sort of stuff. Although I shouldn't be chatting over the opening of the Play the clip, senor. Hello, Algrins. Thank you for stopping by. And again, I apologize for those of you. I know some of you are here for Phoenix Wright. I'm sure some of you have left because you want some Phoenix Wright, but we'll jump back. I see. How nice. But yeah, Diluted. Please feel free to share what you've been playing. Who knows? It might be something you see played over here. I'll get him assigned mascot of the Criminal Affairs Department if it's the last thing I do. Good luck. These are the detectives' desks. There are computers and files on each one. Funny, they're a lot tidier than I'd expect. I guess the detectives don't spend a lot of time at their desks. That must be one of the detectives. He's mumbling something to himself. Your mama could see you know she'd be crying. Break and spit it out, you low-life scumbag. You must be doing image training for interrogations. Alright, so I think this is basically the game telling me we're not ready to talk to... Yeah, so obviously there's something in the park that I haven't got yet. The boats would be the most likely, but... So you got into Overwatch. I saw you playing that, actually. I guess it was Overwatch 2, but despite Blizzard being kind of a trash company, because I liked the lore of some of the characters. I heard it could be toxic, but it turns out the mode that assigns you your character randomly attracts far more chill and patient players. I've actually had some glorious moments of fist bumps and follies. That's really nice to hear, actually. Yeah, so I don't completely abandon multiplayer games, but I have grown a lot less patient with games where there's even a probability that somebody with a bad attitude will be involved. I think it's because a lot of the stuff that I play does tend to take quite long. So if you're low skilled at Dota, the matches actually go on longer than they should. This is one of the reasons actually why if you have like a team full of like carry characters, they will... It's been a while since I played Dota, by the way, so this may have changed. But like, why these things that would actually be really bad compositions as far as the like if you were watch pro play, why they sometimes actually just wind up sort of stomping people in the in the low ranked matches, of which I am including myself, just to be clear, is because you have this, you have these five very much end game oriented characters who have had the time to be able to build up their capabilities. And one of the big realizations on that was it was a round where I played Storm Spirit very, very well. And it was one of those cases where it was clear to me that that is not one that can necessarily scale to the end game. Because there was like a Spectre, which is kind of notorious for being one that has sort of a slow ramp up. And it was just, it felt like they pissed away the whole game. And I think I must have had something like, it was some absurd double-digit number. It must have been like 20 or 30 kills or something like that. But it was just clear that I could no longer do the work, just because even some of the more supporting characters just had they had enough of a health pool that like I could get the drop on them, but I couldn't necessarily deliver the coup de grace in time. And it's just sort of like, you've had an hour to farm. Like, what the hell are you doing with this? Like, don't play this character if you're doing it. And I realize I'm sounding like the toxic player. I did not say this to the person. I'm just thinking this in the background. But this is one of the things I sort of realized about Dota, is that because the matches can take so long, I kind of sympathize a little bit with some of the attitudes that can come up, the stuff that we refer to as a toxicity. And it's not to excuse it, but I think if you feel like you're strapped into a losing proposition for 45 minutes even, that could be kind of hard to take. To which my answer is like, maybe play something else, right? Definitely don't take it out on the other people. But I, as much as I can, I've tried to have the empathy for it. But the other half of it is that, one of the guaranteed ways to make that extended period of time even more miserable is to have someone with a bad attitude on the team. It's one of the reasons why I'm actually not crazy about Apex Legends, because I have enough to worry about all the other players on the battlefield, let alone, the two other people that I'm forced to play the game with. Knowing that people think like that, even if they don't say it, is why I'm not into competitive. Sorry, Kree. I think it's also a context thing too, right? Like, obviously, if we're all sitting around playing like Monopoly or something like that, I'm not going to try and grind people into powder. Or if it's a team-based one, I'm not going to like freak out at them for not, not doing it properly. But on the other hand, like when you take on a role which is designed to sort of make some space for someone and they don't take advantage of it, it can definitely feel pretty tough. But yeah, I think that's why, like, Overwatch, if a match goes wrong, there's only a few minutes of bad matchup. Another reason why I like random character mode, Mystery Heroes, is that it forces you to learn. Yeah, I actually really liked, in Dota, I really liked the, there wasn't the random mode, but there was like a draft mode that sort of like randomized the character. I wish I remember. Let me just take a quick minute here. What was it? Oh God, there's so many here. All random deathmatch sounds horrifying. Was it random draft, I guess? Anyways, there's one that I thought was kind of fun. Like, there are like versions where the captains will like choose bands and picks, and there's a whole strategy behind that selection. I think there's something neat behind that, but I do like the randomness just because it forces you to think on your feet and like play stuff you're not necessarily familiar with. But yeah, I don't know. It's one of these ones where obviously I have enough of a competitive streak that I'll feel annoyed when, when I've invested a whole lot of time and it doesn't feel like that has been capitalized on. But I don't know. I've still not really been able to understand the type of person who screams at teammates thinking that they get to keep the money at the end of the match or something. And it's something that's definitely pushed me out of more multiplayer than I would normally play. It does also feel a little bit like there's been it kind of feels like there's been a bit of a gap that's formed. So there's either a very, very casual or a, like, I want to try and become I want to become pro. So there will be some places where, you're dealing with a pretty high floor in terms of skill, which if you're not really ready to go with that, that's obviously quite challenging. And I mean, that's just going to be part of online communities, right? Like you can't force the other people to sort of have a handicap to keep going. It's actually one of the reasons why the size of the player base matters a whole lot. There was a Magicka MOBA called Wizard Wars, and the problem is that they made if you paid for the game, they made it available, I think, for like a year in advance of the wider release. And there wasn't a very big player base. So essentially what would happen is if you finally tried the free-to-play version, you would be matched against some, like, just hardened veteran. And I actually ran into a couple of very nice people who tried to sort of say, here's a couple things you can think about. But, like, there's clearly no way, and, that's actually one of the rare cases where it was actually helpful for somebody to offer some help. It's when it's your opponent that's actually kind of shocking too. But, that was actually kind of nice. But of course that game kind of shot itself in the foot by creating a situation where, the people who've paid for the game want to have a match against a worthy opponent. They've created sort of this paywall effectively where, there's going to be a year of experience between, and obviously if you're buying the game, you're going to be sort of the most dedicated learner anyway. So even if you just want to try the game casually or see if it's for you, you don't have any other option but to be matched up against someone who will completely flatten you. And because it's a small player base, the chances of you running into those people are pretty high. And so it maybe won't surprise you to find out you can't find Wizard Wars online. And there's definitely, like, there were a bunch of people who, like, said, there'll be a few responses of, like, get good or whatever. And I'm like, listen, enjoy your dying game while it lasts. Like, it's not going to be around for a long time if you don't solve this. And yeah, it didn't make, and I mean, nobody's served by that, right? Like, people are missing out on something that they would otherwise enjoy. And the developer can't feel good about that either. But on the other hand, if you have a multiplayer game and people are not necessarily playing it, I'm not sure how you fix that. Like, I think there's a certain point where you just sort of say the game's not working. It's not worth trying to, it's not worth trying to fix this. Like, sometimes there are just products that don't work out. Yeah, I feel like I'm in a similar similar place to Looted Daybreak, which is I neither aspire to, nor do I think it's really all that desirable to try and go pro. Like, I have known some people who do gaming professionally, either as a broadcaster, but even as someone in esports. And the thing is that I think there are probably more people who don't like the game that they're playing. Like, I don't think anybody would be able to guess who this is, but, like, there are probably more broadcasters who are known for playing certain games who genuinely hate the games that they play now, because it is their job, and they feel that they cannot play that game without losing their livelihood. Play something other than that game. The cost for not playing that game is they lose their livelihood. And just to be clear, I am not talking about Cultist Simulator and Book of Hours. Clearly, I move off of those games. I'm very happy to do a variety of things, and I absolutely love the Weather Factory games. So I'm not talking about me. But yeah, so, I think if it's something that you want to do, we live in an affluent enough society that, yes, we can in fact have people who play video games for a living, as preposterous as that sounds. I wouldn't necessarily discourage people from it, but I don't necessarily see it as aspirational personally, right? I can see how I would enjoy trying to master a game without making it a career. And I can also say, I think some of these stories that I've told are probably clear enough that I have enough interest in trying to do well in some of the stuff that I play that I would like to, I'd really like to put in the time, and I'd really like to do well, but not necessarily, play at the absolute top tier. And some games do have that middle, and other ones don't. But of course, it is a bit of a shame that there could be some games that are essentially doing everything right, save for the fact that the way that the skill distribution has turned out is that there isn't that middle. And I don't know how some games solve that. I think in some cases they become a little bit like Cultist Simulator, where it's like, you enjoy the game or you don't, but the game is ultimately not going to change. But I actually also suspect it's why I enjoy the From Software games so much, because those are ones that, obviously there are some forms of PvP or whatever, but I actually just enjoy, they're nice, large experiences with enough challenge and at least the illusion of mastery. I think a large part of the Souls-like games are built around this idea of them being... I've heard people compare them actually to rhythm games, so this must be why, Deluded would probably be a really good Dark Souls player. But, essentially the idea of... they do a very good job of presenting you the illusion that they're a lot more difficult than they are, so you get this feeling of tremendous accomplishment when you finally overcome the enemy. And I have quite a bit of respect for that, right? Because you do actually put the effort in, and you feel that sense of reward when you do it. And, if you don't get that from multiplayer for one reason or another, why not get that from a robust single-player experience? This camera is rigged to respond to noise, but it only responds to loud noises, like a party popper. Okay, that didn't tell us anything we didn't already know. Lotta? Yeah? So your camera, it triggers on loud explosion noises? Yep. Actually, the victim in this case we're researching, he was shot with a pistol. Pistol? Right. Now, wouldn't a gunshot make a similar noise to our party popper? I guess it would. Your camera. It didn't get a picture of the murder, did it? Hey! Y'all are pretty bright. Huh? I see what you're saying. Tell you what, I'll have a look-see at my film. It would have to be a photo taken late last night. Checked him once. I don't remember if there was anything on him, though. What if I got something? I could be a witness to a genuine murder. Yeehaw! I'll go check that film. Y'all come back now, you hear? She went inside her SUV. I guess we should come back later. How much you want to bet Detective Gumshoe is available now? I guess Detective Gumshoe is still in that, meeting. Hey! Thanks for coming down, pal. Detective Gumshoe! We just finished the meeting. For better or worse. I get the feeling we're in for some bad news. Do you know anything about the victim yet? No, still can't ID him. Has Mr. Edgeworth said anything? Not a word. How did the meeting go? Can't tell you, pal. You're a lawyer. True. You know, I don't know what to believe anymore. Sure, Mr. Edgeworth's human like you or me. Still, I get the feeling that if he'd done something wrong, he wouldn't go hiding it. That's just the kind of guy he is. Why can't anyone else see that? So they just think that Mr. Edgeworth did it? Well, the trial's starting tomorrow as scheduled. I see. Hey, in the end, you did tell us about the meeting. Don't go telling anyone else, pal. Yes, sir. And do me a favor. Stand by Mr. Edgeworth. He needs help, and you're the ones to help him. I'm sure he's got some reason why he won't talk to us. Thanks, Detective Gumshoe. Detective Gumshoe, how come you trust Mr. Edgeworth so much? Well, I think that was obvious. We got a strong working relationship, us two. We trust each other, and that's how it works. A working relationship? See, Mr. Edgeworth always gets his defendants declared guilty every time. Yeah, his methods might be a little extreme at times, but there's a reason. He trusts in our investigation, see? He trusts us to get the right man. That's why I work extra hard, pal. We've got to earn that trust he places in us. I see. Mr. Edgeworth is a man you can trust, and you have my word on that. I was wondering, did you ever get that autopsy report? Oh, that? Yeah, I made a copy for you. Time of death sometime on the 24th or 25th, cause 1 bullet shot to the heart. Thank you. Nick? Huh? Can you show me that photo of the victim? That face. Someone you know? I don't know. I just have this feeling that I met him somewhere a long time ago. Sorry, I'm drawing a blank right now. So I'll take a quick second to the detention Okay. Oops. Vesper, good to see you, and hello everybody from Vesper's channel. So I know I've said it a few times, but Vesper Fortune VT is the reason why we are playing this game tonight. He was so kind to gift the Ace Attorney Trilogy to the channel. I will say, like, so I actually felt a little bad. I've noticed that this is happening more often. So either I don't know, maybe I'm just like, I've gotten worse at talking. But I will say that I shared with Vesper that visual novels are not normally something that I play, and that I was delighted by Ace Attorney. But of course, the drawback is that the way that I phrased it was more like, yeah, I don't normally play these games, as in like, why the hell did you give me this? Like, I got the feeling, at least that's kind of how I came off. So I actually felt super bad about that, because I've been really enjoying this, and I especially have really liked it the sillier that it gets. And one of the reasons why I wanted to sort of highlight that I don't normally play visual novels, or they're ones that I haven't explored as often, is because these are sometimes the gifts that I enjoy the most, where it's something that I wouldn't necessarily have picked up and played on my own. And it's funny too, because I actually love the DS. I think the DS, I mean, maybe this is just like nostalgia or something, but you know, I think the DS is a great gaming system, because like there were these games for it. There are a bunch of sort of peripherals that were, or not peripherals, but like there's a bunch of inputs that are not traditional on it, right? Silver, great to see you. You can see I'm much better behaved in a live broad. Well, I know you've been here before, but Vesper's channel is probably wondering like who the hell this person is, because it's so unlike the chatter that you have to subject yourselves to. But yeah, so there's something great about the DS in the sense that it, like in addition to having the two screens and the stylus and the microphone, there were a bunch of games that really embraced the fact that you could do that. So I'm genuinely curious how the remake of The World Ends With You handled this, because I remember The World Ends With You is probably one of the first games that I played that didn't have like a standard, push A, push B, move the character around or whatever. It really did seem to have this, like this idea that you would shout into the microphone and you'd see kind of your character do this big yell, and like all the rocks would start falling down or whatever. And I mean, when I played it, like the story, I don't want to say it was like hokey, but there's definitely like the story didn't like floor me, right? Like you've got, it's kind of like this. I feel like the story for The World Ends With You is like, character walks into the room, I'm all big and independent, I don't need nobody. And then, you just kind of go on, and then their challenge comes up and they need someone. And at the end is like, all along, I actually realized I do need other people. I'm like, okay, fine. I mean, maybe that there's some details that I missed and I'm being super unfair to it. But that was like the big takeaway I got from it. So it's not like the story in terms of an overall arc moved me in a way that I can't control. It was fun. I enjoyed it. There were actually moments where I really enjoyed that's got some dramatic entrances and twists and things like that. But like it was really one where there's just a batch of things I hadn't really seen in a game before, all combined in this pretty fun, I guess it's sort of an RPG-ish sort of game. And I don't know, like maybe it's just, the reason why I have a respect for it was like kind of that first time that I appreciated that games could be a bit more than what I thought, right? Like it was no longer just move the character along the screen. I think I maybe played Professor Layton before that. I like, Layton's wonderful. But yeah, there was just this idea of things that could be, and I think it's maybe worth remembering because I imagine roughly around that time that would have also been when, like smartphones were kind of taking off. So, I have my iPhone with me now too. Now that has a microphone and, your finger's a stylus. I think there was like a Steve Jobs quote that said something to the effect of like, if you ever see us make a stylus, what was it? If you ever see us make a stylus, you'll know we screwed up or something like that. And of course, then they released the Apple Pencil. I think Tim Cook actually directly confronted that quote when they released the Apple Pencil. But yeah, so I mean, it's not that. I think the thing that's interesting is that it's not that these capabilities don't exist on our devices today. And in fact, there are still not really new games, but like more recent games that are taking advantage of that. So I believe the console version of Alien, was it Alien Isolation? I believe it listened to your microphone to see, like, and the alien would respond if you were being too loud or if it detected certain sounds. So it's not that these alternative inputs aren't being explored, but it definitely felt, for whatever reason, that the DS just seemed to attract a whole lot of very original ideas, and the games maybe felt either enabled to do something different and new or interesting. But again, I never actually played the Ace Attorney games, so it's one of these things where had Vesper not gifted it to the stream, I probably never would have wound up playing them, and that would have been a big shame. Obviously, I know it from like the memes and stuff like that, but although I'm also delighted to hear that Vesper also enjoyed The World Ends With You. I feel like that's one I should probably try again. I do think I still have my DS actually, so. I will also mention that that was not the only thing that Vesper gifted to the stream. However, I'm probably going to get the name wrong. Let me see if I can. Danganronpa. Trigger Happy Havoc. I think I probably pronounced that correctly, but... Oh, see, I kind of wish that I played the 3DS because there was a Julian Gollop Ghost Recon game. But because I didn't have a 3DS, I wouldn't be able to play. I guess it might be easier to find one now, but then I guess I need to find the consoles. I'll get it one day, Vesper. But yeah, anyway, so I'm sorry, I'm spending all this time talking about Vesper in terms of the man who gives me things. Does this make you the sugar daddy for the stream, Vesper? But he's in his own right. He is a fun broadcaster. He's done these neat essays on the weekends. He's actually done some language learning, Japanese. He has done a wide variety of games. I originally found him through Cultist Simulator, actually, but he's somebody I've really been able to appreciate just in his own right. He's played more visual novels, so obviously that's been fun for me to be able to interact with him in response to the in response to gaining a better appreciation of this style of game. Oh, there you go. You can be language buddies. But it is also it's great fun to have Vesper inside of the channel, especially for the stuff that he's gifted to the broadcast, because it's nice too if you can sort of pay someone back by doing something they enjoy. Although I don't think you've missed too much, Vesper, because I've definitely been in a very chatty mood today. All right. Hey, y'all. Lotta. Wait up a sec. We got bingo. Bingo? My automatic camera took 2 pictures last night. Hey. This is them. Take a look. Wait. See? He's shooting them with a pistol. Looks like that, yes. You can't really tell who that is shooting. Yeah, well, there was enough fog out there last night to strangle a bullfrog. But you know, seeing these photos reminded me of something. What? I saw the murder happen. I'm a witness. What? Are you serious? Of course. How do you forget? Never mind. Y'all reckon I should tell the cops? I reckon so. What's that? Now don't y'all go trying to mock my accent. I'm a sensitive lady. Hey, so I'm off to talk to the cops. Y'all can have this photo. Later. Wait, Lotta. What? Can't y'all see I'm kind of busy? Tell us what you saw too, please. Nice try, honey, but I wasn't born yesterday. I'm a witness, and that means I'm on the side of justice, and that means the cops. I'd sooner eat the south side of a northbound skunk than tell you. Lotta. Don't look at your skivvies in a bunch. Friends today, enemies tomorrow. Or was that the other way around? No matter, I'm gone. Hey, maybe let me do some testifying. Hot darn. She left. Well, that's one more witness. What do we do now, Nick? Well, if she saw something, there's not much we can do about it. Question is, what exactly did she see? Guess we'll find out in the trial tomorrow. Like photo added to the court record. Looks like the police have given up their interviewing. Hey! Ah! Nick! I think Santa's mad at you. Long time no see, Nick. Vesper says, lot of heart, but she should really marry someone with the last name Trouble. And Deluded Daybreak's mom, well, I mean, I'm sure all of you will notice that Deluded Daybreak's a little bit of a delinquent, so I can see why mom wanted to check up. I hope the family's well. I hope you're well too, Deluded Daybreak. I always feel a little guilty whenever I slander you. Nick, you know Santa? Wow, Nick and Saint Nick. Hey, I see the connection. Don't be ridiculous. Dude, it's me. Larry? What are you doing here? Isn't it obvious? I'm working my day job. I sell samurai dogs. Want one? Gotta get money for dates, you know? My girl, Kanice deserves the best. Or Kiance? Not another model, I hope. Kiance? She's a fine, fine woman, Nick. It was her idea that I wear this costume. She was all, you go, girlfriend, you know? She bought this costume for me. That's great, Larry. No, I actually didn't know you had a niece, so, 4 months belated congratulations. Wow, a Santa costume. She must be really nice. Whoa, cute. Nick, who's she? She's not your... Not my... what? No, she's not. I'm his partner, Maya Fey. I'm, the little sister. Sister? Wow, Nick, must be tough. Working 9 to 5, having to take care of a little sister. No, I'm not Nick's sister. I'm my older sister, little sister. Huh? Sounds great. Don't worry, Maya. He's not listening. Hey, Larry. There was a murder here last night. And since you work here, have you heard anything? Nick, you're wasting your time. Last night was Christmas Eve. He was with Kiance, obviously. He wouldn't have been standing out here in the cold? Ooh. I think what you just said caught him off guard, Maya. No, it's just... Kiance's not in town right now. She's in Hawaii on a photo shoot. A model, I knew it. Anyways, there was a murder here on the lake. The trial's tomorrow. Huh, neat. The defendant is Edgeworth. Miles Edgeworth. Nick? Why would Larry know Edgeworth? Oh, Nick! You don't mean that Miles Edgeworth? Old Edgy? Yeah, he's a murder suspect. Whoa. Murder. Huh? You know Mr. Edgeworth, Larry? Yeah, of course. Edgy was in the same class as us in grade school. What? Tell me about the dogs. Huh? Oh, you mean the samurai dogs? Why are they samurai dogs? I mean, they kind of look gourd-shaped. Oh, well, originally they were gourd dogs. You know, like guard dogs. Ouch. Samurai thing was Kiance's idea. Oh, she's my woman, you know. She's all, change the name and you go, girlfriend. She made me do that banner. And the kids can't get enough of those samurai dogs. Something about that just seems wrong. That's cute. Deleted. This may be the way that I out myself as not always being present, because I don't know if you mentioned your niece on your stream or not, but actually one of my coworkers just recently had a kid too, so I somewhat appreciate the change. Oh, and guess what? We're getting a ton of customers here at the lake, what with the big news. Big news? Yeah, Gordy. Gordy? So, Mr. Edgeworth was your classmate, Larry. Yeah, Nick, him and I used to hang out all the time. She has the world's most expressive eyebrows. Vesper says, oh, my nieces are already teenagers. Makes me feel like I'm turning to dust. Lol, these relatives are for old people. Wow, I never knew. Don't get me wrong, he's always been a kind of a stick in the mud. Studying all the time, trying to be like father. Like his father? Yeah, Edgy's pop was a famous defense lawyer back in the day. Wow. Wait, you said defense lawyer? Yeah. Wait a second. But Mr. Edgeworth is a prosecuting attorney. What? Edgy's got a proboscis on his knee? No, he's a prosecuting attorney. That's like the total opposite of a defense lawyer. Huh. Go figure. If it's his dad who's the victim. He always used to talk about defending the weak who were unable to defend themselves. And he used to go on and on about man's duty to society and all that. What a bore. I wonder what changed his mind, though. Do you know, Nick? Nick? What's Gordy? Huh? You mean you don't know? It's here in this very lake. A giant, mysterious monster. A monster? Yeah. Check it out. This is an article from... Well, actually, I guess I would have said it would... Yeah, I was going to say that the dad connection would be kind of dumb because Phoenix has already seen the photo. And she loves patterns. This is going to turn into like a beautiful mind. Oh, sorry. I think the audio just cut out for me, not... check it out. This is from an article from yesterday's newspaper. There's a photo. Wow. It's really real? Giant life form appears at Gourd Lake. Nick, a monster. A real monster. Yeah. It's probably just a log or something. Right? Hey, there's a quote here from the person who took the photo. What's this? I set the camera to automatic, and when we got into the frame, I heard a loud bang like an explosion, followed by the sound of something slipping into the water. I wish I could have seen it. Why would there be a sound like an explosion? Larry, could I borrow this article from you? Sure, no problem. That'll be $1 million. You card. 1 million? Grow up, Larry. Gordy article added to the court record. I don't think we're going to find anything else, but... colorful bowls, flowery dresses, anything bright and repetitive snares her gaze. I'm actually trying, probably just have a bad memory for this. I'm trying to remember what I was really into. I guess probably just the usual, like, boy stuff I was into when I was, maybe not 4 months old, I'll remember, but like dinosaur. Actually, you know what? The funny thing is like every Sid Meier project is the sort of thing that I've been kind of into. So, like Legos and, trains and dinosaurs. The dinosaur game was never released, but was I into pirates as a kid? I don't know. You wonder if she'll be a mathematician? Yeah, I was actually going to say if there's like the 4-color theorem which has been shown, but I think there's a 3-color theorem. Let me see if I can. I never keep on top of this. Yeah, it looks like it's 4-color. So for those of you familiar, that quickly turned to it's the same thing. In mathematics, the 4-color theorem or the 4-color map theorem this, by the way, is really fun. It's neat when you hear people's reactions to this. So for those of you that haven't heard of this, this is a neat observation. So in mathematics, the four-color theorem, or the four-color map theorem, states that no more than four colors are required to color the regions of any map that has no two adjacent regions of the same color. Adjacent means that two regions share a common boundary of non-zero length, i.e., not merely a corner where three or more regions meet. It was the first major theorem to be proved using a computer. Initially, the proof was not accepted by all mathematicians because the computer-assisted proof was infeasible for a human to check by hand. The proof has gained wide acceptance since then, although some doubts remain. So yeah, sorry, I was wrong. It was the five-color theorem and then the four-color theorem. So I went one too low. So the theorem is a stronger version of the five-color theorem, which can be shown using a significantly simpler argument. Although the weaker five-color theorem was proven already in the 1800s, the four-color theorem resisted until 1976, when it was proven by Kenneth Appel and Wolfgang Haken in a computer-aided proof. This came after many false proofs and mistaken counterexamples in the preceding decades. The Appel-Haken proof proceeds by analyzing a very large number of reducible configurations. This was improved upon in 1997 by Robertson, Sanders, Seymour, and Thomas, who have managed to decrease the number of configurations to 633, still an extremely long case analysis. In 2005, the theorem was verified by Georges Granthier using a general-purpose theorem-proving software. So, anyways, a bit of a weird rabbit hole to go down, but diluted. I was going to say, if your niece starts arranging things into these four-color groupings, you've got a mathematician on your hands. Not a gumshoe in sight. If you're looking for Detective Gumshoe, he's in the questioning room. Apparently, an important witness turned up. He'll be in there a while. A lot of heart. It has to be. Uh-oh. All right, detention center maybe? Nope. What's this? You know, my eyes have been getting pretty bad lately, Nick. Actually, the photo's blurry, Larry. It was taken last night. Last night? What was that? It's a camera. You take pictures with it. Huh. Larry, you mean you don't know what a camera is? Of course I know. Hey, you're looking at a bona fide junior high graduate. I was talking about the weird contraption on that camera. Oh, that. Well, it's hard to explain. Just forget about it. Well, don't go showing it to me then, jeez. It's weird. I don't think I've ever had this much trouble with a, with like an investigation period. An expensive-looking camera faces the lake. Next to it is a large microphone and a blue plastic sheet. Looks like a computer is attached to the camera. So I kind of feel like I've checked all of my options, save for the fact that I've not made all the progress. So, which is fine. Like I'll get there, but it's normally it's kind of clear where I need to go. And the obvious moves have kind of closed off for me. I will also say, hey Nick, benches. Let's take a break. Maybe have a dog? I think not. It's too cold to sit and eat hot dogs out here. Wimpy city boy. You should try standing under a freezing waterfall sometime. I can't get over the samurai dogs. The original samurai dogs, no less. Hey man, whoever calls their product the original first wins. Why don't you add world famous to the sign? Hey, good idea. What have I done? But yeah, sorry, I'm starting to fade a little bit, so I do want to try and get to the trial. But I'm already, I'm kind of already in danger of not making it to the meeting tomorrow. What is it? Oh, nothing. Just something's been bothering me. Could you show me that autopsy report once more? Hey, I remember now. This guy. He's a lawyer that was at that office Mia worked at. I met him once when I was there to hang out with Sis. That office? Wait, you mean Grossberg's office? Right, that guy. That was the last name I expected to come up. Maybe I should go talk to him, for old time's sake. Well, what should we do? Police have pretty much made up their minds that Mr. Edgeworth did it. Mr. Edgeworth won't tell us anything. I guess we could go look for clues down by the lake? Right. Well, penny for your thoughts? Thoughts. Yeah, why won't Mr. Edgeworth tell us anything? And why did he refuse to ask for our help? What a jerk. He didn't get his painting back? Ah, that old familiar clearing of the throat. Aha! You're Mia's something, are you not? As her understudy, yes, Phoenix Wright. Aha! And you're Mia's something too, are you not? Her little sister, yes. You've grown. You come to look a lot like your sister, you know. Takes me back. Ah, the days of my youth. Like the scent of fresh lemon. You see, Mr. Grossberg, sir. Ah, yes. Beg your pardon. Of course you came here to discuss something. What is it then? Something the matter? Why is the wall there a different color? Big painting was hanging there until recently. Huh. What happened to it? Well, he gave it to someone. I bet he gave it to some romantic interest. Love blooms eternal, Nick. Yeah. An expensive potted plant. No idea what kind of plant it is, but it's probably the most expensive one available. I think our Charlie is cuter. Right. He's really cute. Plant. A table for clients. An elegant ebony case, and if I'm not mistaken, that lighter's made of solid gold. Even I can tell someone here's got money to burn. We should put things on our client table too. I'm not really into smoking. We could put out candy or gum. Classy. Solid mahogany desk. The wood's been polished to a deep luster. Hey Nick, I want a desk like that in our office too. I don't know. I don't think I'm ready to sit at a desk like that yet. Huh? I meant for me! Better start saving your allowance then. What she actually needs is a Coco Bolo desk. Expensive-looking mahogany bookshelves filled with expensive-looking books. Funny. They don't look like they've ever been read. Well then let's take him back to our office. He won't miss them. We don't need them. Then can we take that wooden bear? It is kind of cute. There was a murder last night. A murder? You haven't heard? I just got up, you see. Well, Miles Edgeworth shot someone with a pistol. Edgeworth? What? Who did he shoot? Well, the identity of the victim is still unknown. This is terrible news indeed. I guess he hadn't heard anything. Mr. Grossberg, whatever happened to that painting? Oh, yes. I do not think it shall ever be coming back home to this office. I can't exactly claim it is stolen. I suppose it's my just desserts. Old bitter desserts. Strange. I feel as though I've seen this man somewhere before. Ah! Did you remember? He was a lawyer here in my office. That's Hammond. Robert Hammond. Mr. Hammond? And you say this is the man Miles Edgeworth shot? So this is the moment the crime took place, eh? Yes. You can't really say for sure that's Edgeworth. I'm not sure whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. Not sure at all. My apologies. I'm not sure I can help you with that. Was this the gentleman who helped you in your venture, a theme park built around a unique type of... I know it's Richard. Who's this Hammond guy anyway? Mr. Hammond. He was the defense attorney in that case. That case? Yes, the DL6 incident. DL6? Why does that sound so familiar? Perhaps you remember? I'm sure someone mentioned it during the trial for Mia's murder. That was the incident where the police were so at a loss they used a spirit medium. Wait, you don't mean... Was that medium my mother? Yes, my dear. The spirit medium, Misty Fey, your mother, contacted the spirit of the victim. But the case was a loss. No conviction was made. The DL6 incident, yes, happened 15 years ago. A very strange case indeed. They never caught the criminal, right? Correct. Misty Fey used her powers to talk to the spirit of the late victim. Their testimony led to charges being laid against one man. Mr. Hammond won the case, and the suspect was declared innocent. And the police blamed my mother, calling her a fraud. You were the one who helped her out then, right, Mr. Grossberg? Yes. Yes, quite. Thank you. No, please. Don't mention it. DL6. Never thought I'd hear that name again. But wait. What does that case have anything to do with Mr. Edgeworth? It has everything to do with Mr. Edgeworth, my dear. The victim in the DL6 incident was none other than his father, Gregory Edgeworth. What? His father? If you want to know more, you should ask him yourself. Show him this. I'm sure he'll talk to you. Wait. This is a photograph of my mother. Misty Fey's photo added to the court record. An old photograph, DL6 incident, Exhibit A is written on the back. What's this? I was hoping you'd gotten my message the first time. Edgeworth, what about your defense? It's no concern of yours. Guess he hasn't found anyone yet. Can I ask you about the murder? Right? I'll ask you again. Just leave me alone. Please try to understand. I'm not doing this to prove I'm tough or because I look down on you. I just don't want you anywhere near this case, understand? Why did you go to Gourd Lake? I have no intention of telling you. Nor, apparently, would you tell Detective Gumshoe. Detective Gumshoe was really worried about you. Edgeworth? It's only been a matter of hours since you last visited. Yet you've made incredible progress in your investigation. I'll admit it, I'm impressed, Wright? You're always single-minded in your work, though. Once you start on something, you always see it through, don't you? About the DL6 incident. Right, DL6. I didn't want you to find out about it. That is why I refused your offer to defend me. I'm sorry if it sounded like I thought you weren't up to the job. I just wanted to keep you away from DL6. So, do you still think it would have been better for me to stay away? I don't know. But I see no point in hiding anything from you now. Very well. Ask whatever you'd like, and I will answer to the best of my abilities. The DL6 incident was when my father died. Right before my eyes. He was shot and killed, and I saw it all. My memories from that time are foggy. I suppose it's a self-defense mechanism. In any case, a suspect was arrested. A man. It's pretty clear he was the only one who could have killed my father. The spirit medium they used to talk to my late father said the same thing. It was an attorney by the name of Robert Hammond that cleared the suspect's name. And Hammond is the victim in the Gourd Lake murder? Correct. That spirit medium, that was my mom. What? You mean you're... It's strange. I thought that terrible incident was about to end. And now this. About to end. The DL6 incident happened 15 years ago. 15 years ago, on December 28th. December 28th? Statute of limitations on the case runs out in 3 days. What? Nick, what does that mean? When a case's statute of limitations runs out legally, the case never happened. 3 days from now, DL6 will be closed forever. What happened to the suspect? The one who got off innocent? I don't know. He disappeared from public view. Nobody knows where to. If he's still alive, he'd be about 50 years old now. I guess I can understand why he'd go into hiding. It'd be hard to live a normal life after being a murder suspect in such a big case. So was your father a lawyer? He was Gregory Edgeworth. He was quite famous at the time, apparently. So you were sort of trying to follow in his footsteps? I'd rather not talk about it. You said you'd answer anything! Your attorney's badge. Can't say I really want to see one of those right now. What's that? I'm not in the mood for idle banter, right? It's not idle! Who would have thought there'd be a photo? Edgeworth, did you shoot him? What do you think, Wright? I don't think you're the kind to point a gun at anyone, no. So you didn't shoot him? No, I didn't. It wasn't me. Right? It pains me to ask you this now. I know. You want us to defend you. Yes. Will you? Of course we will. And who could have guessed this day would come? Not me. This is my chance to finally pay you back. Pay him back? Pay me back? For what? I don't remember ever doing anything for you. Never mind. I guess you don't really need to know. Huh? My letter of request. Please give it to Detective Gumshoe. Well, I guess we should... What's that? Earthquake! Nick! It's a big one! What? It's coming down. Whew. That was scary. Huh? Where's Edgeworth? There. He's on the floor in a ball, shivering. I guess he doesn't do so well with earthquakes. I've heard of running, but curling up in a ball? Out of curiosity, have any of you been in an earthquake? Like, there's minor ones, but I don't quite know where everybody's sort of located. This is a little one, yeah. Yeah, so in... Like, I guess the big... Okay, yeah, so I think most people have... Yes! So this is kind of partly why I was curious. So I lived in Vancouver for quite a while, and there's definitely, I've definitely experienced minor ones. Even in the city I grew up, I experienced a small one. It was like, it's largely the way that people sort of describe it is how I experienced it, which is sort of like, it's kind of like a big truck is going by. But the thing that was weird for me is that I lived in definitely a, not like super remote, but definitely remote enough and like a purely residential area where it would not make any sense for a truck to be driving by. You were in a moderate one, but it was in a big loud movie at the time, so I thought it was just an action scene. Yeah, so there's one earthquake that I was in, and like, I mean, in Vancouver, everybody sort of thinks of like the big one, right? But it was really interesting because I was at a friend's place, and like, we all felt something, and it maybe wasn't immediately identifiable as an earthquake, but it felt wrong. And then I sort of looked over and I noticed like they had this very large mirror that was hanging on the wall and it was sort of swaying a bit. But the thing that actually intrigued me the most, so I like, as soon as I saw the swaying, I sort of figured that it might be an earthquake. But I actually kind of finally got to appreciate something that I'd only ever really heard about. So there's apparently a phenomena where when someone experiences an earthquake, there is just this tremendous feeling of unease that comes over them. And like, you can see why, right? Like the earth is moving in an unnatural way. Like, you can just absolutely see how, like, unconsciously you think the world's coming to an end. So even if it's like a minor one, and like, it's just one of those things that I read about and I sort of could intellectually understand being a thing. But it's a very good friend that I had, and she was really, really unsettled by it, which was probably the bigger signal to me that it was an earthquake rather than like the swaying of the mirror. Although that was kind of like my first reaction was, yeah, it's probably an earthquake. So like, obviously that's a bigger one than what I'd experienced before, enough that, you know, you're in a room and everybody sort of recognizes what's happened. But I thought it was really interesting that the big tell for me was the fact that there was somebody like responding quite emotionally to it. I think it's one of those details, maybe this is because I think about writing every once in a while, but it's like one of those details that you never think of if you're like writing something down. Like, chances are, if you, I'm going to sound like such a hack writer, and I probably am, but like, if you were to write an earthquake scene, you know, you'd probably think of, you know, the earth splitting open, or you try and think of like, you know, descriptions of, I mean, if you've never been in an earthquake, you'd probably think of like, I don't know, like paint shakers or something. And then, you know, if you've been in a minor one, you maybe elaborate from that. We've all seen movies now, so earthquakes are sort of seen inside of those. They also tend to be very Baroque. But the thing you probably wouldn't immediately think of would be the unsettled feeling that other people in the room with you feel, and that being the most memorable part. And yet, you know, that is actually something that I've drawn from. It's probably, if I were ever to write an earthquake scene, unless it's again a big dramatic one in which the action matters, I would probably find some way of describing that feeling, because that is the sort of thing that gives a degree of and it's weird, right? Like, I'm talking about an actual experience that I've had and describing it as authentic, as opposed to like every other experience in my life that wasn't authentic, right? Of course these things are authentic, but it's one of these things where I'm not saying you can't learn them from other places, because clearly it's a phenomenon I had read about before. Yeah, imagine nothing happening, but just I feel unexplained dread. Yeah, it's just one of those things where you would never conceive of yourself writing something like that, or or including that as a detail, save for the fact that it's something that you've experienced and so is the most appropriate in terms of the description. And I'm sure there's a few other ways around it. There's a sort of writing exercise. I think I've mentioned this before, that we're doing the hot potato exercise. So this is where it's a 3,000 word short story. It's written in 6 parts, and everybody writes 500 words. I don't know if I'd really do an exercise again like that in the future, but it's probably a good thing to do at least once. And this is a decent example that I have of this. Is like one of the stories that I worked with was it's sort of like at a camp, and it's sort of teenage characters, all girls. And in fact, I found some of the characters fairly unlikely. Like there was one where like the way that the writers sort of differentiated their quote-unquote character voice was to just put "oh my god" in front of everything, and I'm like, okay, I need to get rid of this character as soon as possible. I can't stand this. But like the main character was also really unlikable. They're just kind of a know-it-all. That is like, that's fine, because like you can still tell good stories with unlikable characters, but like I'm really trying to find something to sort of hang my hat on this. And one of the things, so one of the details of this was you needed to include a lie in the story. And I always thought the more interesting one would be like take the lie that the writer came up with, but as you're like doing some of the later sections, find a lie that someone maybe didn't necessarily intend as a lie, but can be supported through the later action. So essentially what you're doing is you're not rewriting anything that's happened before, but find something within the existing text that actually reveals something that you might have taken as truth before turned out to be the more significant lie. I always think that's kind of a fun way to do exercises like these. But it was like the second section, so I wasn't going to do that. But it sort of ended. It's they're like, they're girls in like a camp, like a it's late at night. They're kind of breaking the rules, and they get the know-it-all character to like she's a daughter of a witch or something, or is a witch, and it's like get her to read a fortune. They weren't allowed to bring their tarot cards, so they see the fortune through tea leaves, and it sort of ends with she looks down into the cup, and it sort of fills up with blood, and then she claims that she doesn't see anything. Now, like, the difficulty that I run into on this, right, is that as far as metaphors go, if a teenage girl sees a cup filling with blood, it's pretty kind of clear if, where, like, what the story's about, quote unquote. But I am absolutely not equipped to write that story, right? I would argue that's unfair to put me in, in a situation like that, because I'm not going to be able to do that. There isn't, I'm not really. I can draw from like scenes that I've seen in other media, right? And there are plenty of TV shows or movies that have done variations on that very well, but I don't necessarily know that there's any benefit to me doing a book, or not a book, a short story, taking on those those topics, because I don't like. The thing is that all that I'm ever really going to be able to do is that second degree, like that copy of a copy, as opposed to having a genuine insight, or being able to describe something in a way that would have a detail or authenticity like the earthquake example. Yeah, go nuts, Diluted Daybreak. I've already opened up a massively uncomfortable topic. And the tricky part about this is that it's actually, in one case, I do not like the idea that I don't like the idea when people are sort of running around that it's like, because you are not like X, you can't write on that topic, right? I've never felt that that is a very strong argument. I feel that that's a lot more about sort of kicking people out and trying to promote, you know, your own stuff or the own things that you like. And I get it, it's competitive, and especially when an industry isn't necessarily growing, that you're going to sort of look for an edge to try and promote the stuff that you prefer. But I think it's important to like not fall into that trap of sort of saying, you know, only cancer patients can write about cancer, for instance, right? I don't think that's any more desirable than like only going to doctors that have had cancer to get cancer treatment. That's funny, Diluted Daybreak. Yeah, I mean, so I definitely took it in a different direction. There's a couple of things. So like I don't want to go into like too many details in terms of how I solved that particular story, but like I got rid of the way that I sort of navigated that was I wanted to preserve what was present in terms of the story, so that if somebody wanted to pick up those threads, I didn't close the door on it. Because like in the end, I'm only contributing 500 words. It's only going to be 1/6 of the story, and like very rarely are stories ever going to be the same note repeated over and over and over again. And I did find a couple of things that I could do. So one of the ways, I think it's more that there's this weird mysterious around periods when it's mostly just annoying and painful, and that's that's fair. I mean, and you know, I'll be clear too, like, you know, Carrie is, I think, widely regarded as a decent film and not a bad book. And I mean, it's Stephen King and Brian De Palma are sort of two big creative forces behind that. I don't think they have firsthand knowledge, so far as I can tell. So I definitely don't think you can. Now, please don't get me right. I'm not trying to hold up Carrie as like some, you know, post-feminist, you know, masterpiece or anything like that. But yeah, like you can do compelling stories about characters at that age without being like a teenage girl. But yeah, what I did decide to do with it was, because I was really annoyed by some of the characteristics of the characters and the fact that there was no at all. So there's basically like the one who asked for the fortune was a rich girl, and like it was really set up as like this rich girl is an idiot, and you know the point of view character really disliked her. And again, I actually was more sympathetic to the rich girl, because it's like everything that was stated seemed to be an assumption about this person without any evidence of it, or at the very least kind of came off as yeah, exactly. So like I think that's the big one for me, Diluted Daybreak, is that I think the sort of the themes and the ideas behind that story are ones that everyone can relate to, which of course is why those stories work. Yeah, no, exactly. So I definitely don't have that talent, so I didn't even remotely hit on those topics. But what I did decide to do, it's like I always do enjoy it when I have an opportunity, when I've been annoyed by something and I get a chance to almost sort of troll the previous author. A few of the things I decided to do. So like the rich girl character definitely was reading like a bit of a stereotype. And again, Principle of Charity says that it's a point of view character who's being unfair to this rich character. But it could also just genuinely be that this is someone who like sort of feels that wealth is itself a disqualifying moral characteristic. And then I thought the idea of a character only saying "oh my god" in front of every single line was not. It's like having a character with an eye patch. Like that isn't a character trait. That's just a, you know, it's like dressing. So what I decided to do out of it was like, okay, so I need to get rid of the oh my god character because I really don't want to do that. I also didn't like the fact that like everybody was swearing like sailors in the first 500 words. So it's like I'm not like bothered too much by profanity in and of itself, but when it feels sort of aimless or directionless, or almost like it's a crutch for a different, like some other lack, it does bother me a little bit more. So it's like, okay, I need to find a way to deal with that, but not have it be obvious. And then the big one was, because these two characters seem to be set up to dislike each other, or at the very least there's some tension and conflict, I'm gonna have to force them to work together. So the pieces that I put into place was the oh my god character. I dealt with that by, and the fact that they were speaking so unnaturally was that they were actually because this is a world in which magic exists, so they were effectively some kind of demon or monster in disguise, which is what the ill fortune signified. And then this had the effect. So first of all, that character doesn't need to speak anymore. And then because they're being, because they're effectively being hunted by the end of that section, and because I do not want the point of view character to be just a complete psycho and leave, someone who they may not like very much, but that's not necessarily a death sentence. Now they're forced to work together, right? They have a higher ideal of survival. And then because it's largely, the world, there's a number of features that sort of, I really lean into the fact that it's a world in which magic exists. So there's a bunch of sort of descriptions in terms of the world shifting and changing and becoming very unnatural. That kind of dealt with the swearing, right? One might say scared shitless. But yeah, so essentially there were too many other things for the characters to deal with than to deal with all the foul language. Deluded says, I disagree to a small degree. An eye patch can absolutely be a personality trait. Character that chooses a patch over false eye says a lot. Is the patch plain or ornate? Is it perhaps that they embroidered their eye patch as a big blue, heavily stylized eye? There are different patches for different occasions. I mean, all fair, but I mean, I feel that that's adding... I feel that that is not just an eye patch at that point, right? I think there's any point... Like, this is not very helpful in terms of discussions, but I've generally felt that anytime somebody puts a rule in front of you for any kind of creative endeavor, they're going to... there's going to be someone who will feel motivated to break it, and they'll probably do a good job. But there definitely has been a trend, maybe in older stories or that, where, having a limp, having an eye patch, having having some sort of like defect, is the character trait. And I don't think that's sufficiently interesting. But I would certainly not extend that to some sort of general statement of storytelling, which says that, no character with an eye patch can be interesting. I think there's a lot of very interesting pirate stories that show that people with eye patches can in fact be interesting. But of course, it's not the eye patch that's interesting. It's the eye patch is a representation of some other thing. And again, it's difficult, right? Because like there's always going to be like a crappy example that I can hold up, and then the question then becomes, okay, so we have an example here of bad writing, but is this all that it is? But what I'm really trying to go for here, though, is that on its own, you can sort of pick things out of a collection of minor details that seem on the surface potentially interesting, but don't really reveal anything Revive Snow is going to get an eye. We'd have to have you on camera then, I guess. I've never seen a programmed false eye. But yeah, no, it's like as you rightly point out, Diluted Daybreak. Like it's definitely not intended to be sort of some kind of exclusionary trait, right? So you can have a character with a limp or a false leg or an eye patch or a hook for a hand, and all of these are potentially something interesting that you can expand on. But I mean, maybe here's a better example that I can take for this. I would argue that Ahab in Moby Dick is interesting for a lot of reasons. The missing leg is interesting because of its connection to the whale and his obsession, rather than the fact that he's got a peg leg. Because the peg leg could make him like Long John Silver too. But of course, it's that this very single-minded pursuit of the whale and sort of this very prophetic name, among other things that kind of make him a very interesting character. So that's more where I'm going with that, which is that usually it's some relation to that physical characteristic, to something that actually is more closely tied to the story, rather than the presence of the detail itself. Mr. Edgeworth doesn't seem like he's going to stand up anytime soon. Let's go, Nick. Right. I'm gonna have to give Edgeworth's letter of request to Detective Gumshoe. December 25th, Police Department, Criminal Affairs. Well, I feel, isn't it the Pirates of the Caribbean sequel? Like, Davy Jones, I think, has some kind of distinctive walk. I don't know if he has a peg leg, though. Obviously, the octopus face is the more memorable. What's going on here? Eek! What's wrong, detective? This wild lady comes in here just a while ago. Says she came to talk to y'all after hearing what Mr. Wright had to say. What's this all about, pal? Lot of heart. Why are you going around finding more witnesses? You want to give Mr. Edgeworth the death sentence, pal? No, not at all. Just, I mean, she did see something. There's nothing I can do about that. Sorry to hear that, Diluted Daybreak. I also didn't know that was your affliction. I can't go around covering up evidence. You trying to say something about the way I do my job? Oh, sir. Look what I got. Hey, you did it, pal. Glad I waited till the last minute to file those papers. I'll rip them up and start new ones for you. Thanks, detective. Well, see you in court tomorrow, then. Good luck, pal. Hey, you guys feel that earthquake a little while back? I was worried. Worried? We're fine. I lived out here my whole life. I'm pretty used to them by now. I wasn't worried about you two. I was worried about Mr. Edgeworth. Oh, right. You did seem to overreact a little now that you mention it. Yeah, well, I'm not surprised. It was a pretty big quake. I'm gonna go check on him. You two go eat, You two go eat and get your rest for tomorrow's trial. Later. I wonder what it is with Mr. Edgeworth and earthquakes. I wonder. He was never that scared of them when he was in school. Then again, I only really got to know him in 4th grade. He transferred to another school after that. I wonder what happened to Edgeworth. To be continued. All right. So I'm sorry. I know it was a little more chatty this time around, and particularly on things that were only tangentially related to the game. But I I did want to try and do Ace Attorney tonight. So what I'm gonna try here is nuts. I definitely want to do this again. I'll try and do this on Monday. I think I'm still going to do Cyberpunk on Friday. Yeah, it's just so the thing is that I did really enjoy sharing some of the legal stuff. In fact, I'll just mention that Takri really leaned into some of the fun Canadian legal stuff. And I think it's always kind of fun that one of the things I like the most about talking about that stuff is it's a bit like when you go out of town to either do like a holiday or a tour or see something. I've traveled less than I probably should, and one of the reflections that I've had on that, like especially living in Vancouver, was this idea that there's so much stuff that I could experience in my own city that I hadn't. So like one of the first times I thought about that was like thinking it's like, it might be kind of fun to go to Japan. And I still think it would be really fun to go to Japan. But I was sort of thinking is like, I've never even been to the art gallery. And, of course it's Wednesdays, the free nights. Of course, that's where you go, find a charming young woman and say, impress her with your knowledge of art, which of course I have absolutely none of. So I'm sure that's not the only reason why I'm not impressive, but no, like, Vancouver's a beautiful city. There's lots of stuff to do. And if I have not even gone to see the art gallery, like one of the obvious things that you can do in a city that has an art gallery, am I really going to be getting the most out of going to another place? And sometimes the answer to that, yes. I actually think the best vacations are the ones that are like locked, you rigidly schedule them so that you're not sort of sitting in a hotel room staring at the walls, or like, I'm the sort of person who would like go to a foreign city and like go watch a movie. It's like, I can do that at home. So yeah, I mean, it's a, sorry, why the hell was I saying this? Oh yeah, the Canadian legal stuff. So yeah, that sounds like a great afternoon. I don't know if the pen shop's open at the hour that the art gallery has the free time. I actually have in Ottawa. I have a paid membership to the National Gallery, but oh hell yes, Silver 85. There's actually multiple pen shops in Vancouver. I stopped by a pen club, but I can't remember if any of you've seen. I've got a special bullet pen, which is kind of funny, but I don't think it's an actual bullet that it's out of, but it's shaped like one. Anyways, but yeah. Anyway, so on that note, yeah, and just to be clear, I'm like 99% sure that I've actually been to the pen shop that Diluted Daybreak is referring to. I can't say for sure, but I'm pretty sure there was a pen club meeting in that one. While I didn't really stay in the pen club, I definitely remember that place, and I went back because they had a specific kind of ink that I was looking to get. That's very funny. But yeah, so the reason why I'm doing this tangent is that like the thing that I find so interesting when I do that, oh, that's nice. That's a really thoughtful gift, Diluted Daybreak, because my first fountain pen was a gift from my very good friend. The same one's actually in that earthquake story. But anyways, the thing that's kind of interesting about this is that the Canadian legal stuff. So like I knew about Amicus the Owl, and I knew about the, like, I always like to pretend that it's the Chief Justice that goes into the Amicus costume. I'm sure that joke has been made like 100 times before, but the thing is that like presumably, if you want to know more about Amicus, sure, you can go check Reddit. You can go, you could ask ChatGPT or whatever. But presumably, there's going to be something on the website about that. And that's what led me to finding the activity book. But the other thing that I think is important is like sometimes, much the same way that you can live in a city for years and not see even just like half of the major tourist attractions in some cases, you can wind up in a situation where, you live in a country or a state or a province or, pick whatever level of government you want. And there's some basic things that you can actually just learn by going to the website, right? So I know there's quite a few US viewers. I'm going to guess that I've probably gone to the Bureau of Labor Statistics website far more times than anybody in this chat. Now, admittedly, part of that was for my job, and I don't necessarily think that to be a good citizen, you have to go and look at the BLS on a regular basis. You've been to Arizona, lived in Arizona for almost 20 years now, still haven't seen the Grand. Perfect example, Silver 85, because I'm pretty sure one of the first things I would want to check is like, how do I see the Grand Canyon? That's a great example of it. I mean, it could turn out that it's like, yep, it's a big hole in the ground. glad I did this. Where's lunch? There's some things that maybe you're just not that interested in, but to me, it's a nice little reminder in terms of the opportunities that sometimes are just hiding in plain sight. And that can sometimes just be something as simple as looking at a government website to learn a little bit more about a topic. And so while I wouldn't necessarily say, that all of you are bad American citizens because you don't regularly look at the BLS, one of the things that I thought was very interesting was that, I have looked at a few different statistical agencies. So there are a few different quirks. So for some reason, the Dutch seem to be amazingly productive. They have, in terms of staff, a relatively small statistical agency. And yet I really like a lot of the stuff that they've done with producer price indexes. There's the ONS in the UK, right? Office of National Statistics. You'd kind of assume that in terms of the UK, that maybe it would be a bit more similar to Canada. I'm trying to remember the name of the Australian one, and that's a shame because I'm half Australian. But I sometimes wonder, in the case of the Australian ones, one of the reasons why I looked at that agency was I've always had this question of how similar do Canada and Australia look? Because in one sense, they're completely different countries, and yet they're ones with very large natural resource sectors. And the environmental impacts of that actually wind up being a bit of a political challenge, right? There are some people who do want to see the development of those natural resources, and I think there's a perfectly legitimate sort of claim and desire to do so. But I also need to acknowledge the fact that there is an environmental cost to that. We also want to acknowledge that, and we want to manage that as best as we can. And there absolutely are countries that do better and worse jobs of balancing, environmental concerns along with the economic benefits that come from natural resource extraction. So but again, that's just a kind of a superficial connection that I'm looking at on here. So I, looking to see how deep those connections are, are the countries roughly similar in size in terms of population? Are there, tax rates, some of these other things that might, suggest the electoral systems are completely different, for example. So I kind of want to say, well, what are the analogies? Because the other example that you can take, just to stay in Oceania, you could say, well, maybe New Zealand is the more appropriate comparison because they feel like the little brother, next to a much larger economy that will clearly have a pretty profound effects in terms of their ability to do their own things. Yeah, I don't know. It's, to me, this is one of the reasons why I keep looking at these different statistical agencies. But the thing that I thought was so interesting was that it occurred to me in doing this examination that the US was the only one that I could really think of that did not have sort of one unified statistical agency, that there are actually multiple sort of agencies in the US that handle different kinds of statistics. So, for instance, I don't believe the Bureau of Labor Statistics has any crime statistics. I'm assuming that would be handled by the FBI, but I could be wrong on that. Whereas Statistics Canada, if you go to the site, you will find, balance of payments, you'll find, unemployment rate, you'll find Statistics Canada has a table for cigarette production still. It's a little bit of everything. Now, BLS will be an important one because that is one that will give you inflation. And I know that's a big topic that people have been talking about. But there's absolutely, the reason why I highlight that one is because the more I sit and think about it, and the more I sort of think about sort of the structure of the United States and its history, it makes complete sense to me that they would have multiple statistical agencies, not necessarily competing, but sort of just all of these things handling their own. Because, of course, you have the United States and this idea of states' rights and, this independence, and why there isn't sort of like a unified, set of kind of electoral rules in each of the various states. That just seems to be something that sort of runs throughout the way that the United States is organized. And, obviously people will have opinions as to whether it's more or less efficient to have it split over different groups. But it's just one of those things that I only ever really thought about or noticed once I started, because I'm a really cool guy on the weekends, looking at the different outputs of the different agencies. Have a good night, Diluted Daybreak. I'm actually going to be hosting Will Shand in a little bit. But yeah, the reason why I brought that up is just it's one of those things where, I'm probably not going to have anything to do with the Canadian Supreme Court. In fact, I would suggest that if I ever wind up in the Canadian Supreme Court as anything other than a tourist, my life has probably taken a very negative turn, right? So, there are very few circumstances under which I can imagine interacting or learning anything about that institution through direct experience. But there's absolutely nothing that stops me from visiting the website and seeing what it's all about. And it turns out that when you visit the websites for most things, they actually want you to be informed about them, right? Just like a business. If you go to a business's website, you'll probably find out the hours that they're open or when it was founded and so on and so forth. And so that's one of the reasons why I don't want to be too apologetic about the chattiness. Obviously, I'm doing that now. Although I do want to make sure that there's enough gameplay to sort of justify tagging as Ace Attorney. But it is kind of a fun little way. The one regret that I have in terms of the chattiness is that it does sometimes come at the expense of doing some more Canadian legal trivia almost, right? Because the Supreme Court is one body, but there can be the difference between sort of the provincial and the federal responsibilities. And that sort of stuff can be fun to explore as well. Anyways, we are going to host Will Shand, assuming he's still streaming. But thank you all for hanging out with me. I'm going to pay for this tomorrow morning, but I appreciate you all being here. And again, I'll try and be back to Phoenix Wright on Monday. It's a little bit of a weird time for me in terms of scheduling. So I obviously last Monday did uplink. So I'll try and be as consistent as I can, but I'm not going to hold that consistency to a hard rule, let's say. But failing that, Friday, Cyberpunk. Monday, I will be doing most likely Phoenix Wright. And I will just mention that on the 18th, there should be the local game dev meetup. And so I will not be streaming on this coming Wednesday, but I will be back on the Friday. Anyways, please enjoy Will Shan's channel. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Rive Snow, Takri. I know Delude Daybreak's gone, Silver85, Vesper Fortune VT, of course, giving me a wonderful reason to stream this. And I don't know if Joshy Man's still around, but I appreciate you and Algrins for the resubscriptions. And of course, the gifted subscription as well. But anyways, have a good night, everybody. See you in the next one.